Hey there. Yesterday, Jupiter went into the sign of Leo, and this video is dedicated to all things Jupiter in Leo, basically. I'm actually quite happy about this. I think he's been in Cancer, obviously, for a year. He spends pretty much almost a year or exactly a year in every sign of the zodiac, and he's got a very regular orbit, very evenly spaced. But you know, have we had our fill of Jupiter in Cancer? I think so. It has opened our heart in many ways. It's definitely helped us to get into our emotions and to feel them, and also to feel into the ideas of loyalty and togetherness and the foundations of family. Now, we are in this Jupiter and Leo stage, and I think we're coming into a time when magnificence is going to get celebrated. Now, that might seem a little bit odd or unusual, because there's been a very, very strong Pluto in Aquarius energy that I think has really taken hold in our human psyche. And so what I'm going to do in the first part of this video is to talk about the planetary weather, like how Jupiter is working with all the outer planets, and the Barbault basket, which is coming up at the sort of like midway through July. I'm recording this on the 1st of July, by the way. And then at the end, I'm going to talk specifically on a sign-by-sign basis as to how I think this whole Jupiter energy through Leo is going to work for you in these times right now. Now, before we get going, I do want to ask you if you can remember what you were doing from summer 2002 and also July 2014 and beyond that, for a year each time, because these were the last times that Jupiter was in the sign of Leo. And you might find that there's some themes that come up again. This one, however, is just so much more strong acting, fast working than the previous two. So let's get into this. I'm going to bring up my slides right now. Now, of course, Jupiter is said to be the largest planet of the zodiac. And here's the interesting thing. From an astrology perspective, when we look at our planets in our birth chart, we include the sun and the moon as planets. And of course, you know, the sun is a star. That's what we've been told. So, you know, Jupiter is the largest planet, even though the star at the center of our solar system is massive by comparison. But you know, I do think there are some almost shared qualities here. And the reason I pick up on the sun so much is the sun is the natural ruler of the sign of Leo. This is a symbol for Leo, by the way. And it's kind of got a sun in the middle of it, you know, all we need is a little dot in the middle. But, you know, the sun is the planet in our birth charts that shows us how we need to express ourselves. And it really shows up as our personality, what we're shining out there. And consequently, Leo, the sign of Leo, really has that energy of shineability. You know, wherever Leo is in your chart is showing where almost like life is wanting you to shine. Life is wanting you to open up and kind of really open up your heart so everybody can see you, like irrespective of whether you're embarrassed or not, you know. Where Leo shows up is really showing where you're meant to be open-hearted in the world. Now, Jupiter is also a large planet. And if you know anything about the mythology of Jupiter, you know, Jupiter's larger than life. And so we've got this kind of largesse and also the energy of expressing yourself in the sign of Leo. So this is going to be an interesting time, and it could lead to overload and verbosity and arrogance and things like that and excessive amounts of pride. But I also think it's going to bring in a very open and generous heart. So a little bit about Jupiter. So he's the god of the sky. He's known as Zeus in Greek mythology, and he's like the champion of world order. Now, he's the son of Saturn, and there's quite a lot of information about Jupiter and Saturn's relationship. In birth charts, they appear to be doing very, very different things. Jupiter's opening things up, and Saturn appears to be closing things down. But he was able to kind of wield a thunderbolt and a scepter, and he was really an authority in his own right. You know, Jupiter is seen as a magnificent leader. In fact, I've done a few videos about Jupiter and Saturn because I see them both as leaders, potential leaders. And I always see, like, if you think of a typical corporate environment, like a modern day environment, I would say Jupiter is the visionary. He's maybe the CEO that sets the tone, that talks publicly about the company and says like rousing sentiments to get everyone going. And then Saturn is the chief financial officer or the VP that is actually cracking the whip behind the scenes and who is monitoring things and measuring things and making sure everything's okay. Both characteristics are needed to create a successful business. Likewise, in a successful personality, just like being yourself and expecting that to be enough is maybe a little innocent. Although, as you'll find out with this particular Jupiter and Leo transit, actually that's kind of going to work. Jupiter and Saturn are going to be working together beautifully throughout most of this time. But anyway, he was kind of elevated because he was a bit of a boss in his own right. And so they had lots of festivals and games and things with lavish offerings. He was really lauding it up as well. So, he is pretty celebratory. I love that. He was also very much about political social order, and he was seen as almost like a moral authority. Jupiter in our birth charts often relates to our belief systems and how we kind of know what's right for us, and sort of abstract morality, philosophical morality, but also our actual religions and things. And so you can see that he's got a certain amount of dominion. In mythology, he was also holding dominion over borders and alliances. So that may well come up as a theme over the coming year, borders and alliances. He actually shared a lot of power with other deities. I mean, I think Jupiter's a very sort of collaborative planet. He does like to, hold his power, but also empower people around him. So he's seen as one of the more popular deities. And I think in terms of planets, when we talk about Jupiter, we're talking, oh, I love my Jupiter. And when we're talking about Saturn, we're like, oh God, Saturn transit, So I think Saturn is maybe unfairly viewed from, by comparison to Jupiter. He looks like a massive pain in the arse. He succeeded his dad as Saturn. He married Juno, who is also known as Hera. In Greek. He had loads and loads of indiscretions. Now, what does this mean to us? Well, he is fulsome, he's highly worshipped, and he has these lavish celebrations. You can become too big for your own boots. That's a phrase I've learned from my own childhood. He can encourage this like hard partying. It can be really egoic. And the need to expand authority, expand space is huge. I think we can all think of modern day people who have this expansive energy and this almost unbelievable, unfaltering vision of themselves. That is like Jupiter on steroids. And it's also very much like Jupiter in Leo on steroids. It's huge. So that's one of the things that comes up with Jupiter is we can party hard and just absolutely love ourselves a little too much in a way that prevents us from having great relationships with other people. When we think about Jupiter, he is the ruler of Sagittarius and Pisces. And Pisces is associated with the 12th house and Sagittarius is associated with the 9th house. Now, I'm not saying the houses and the signs are the same, but like Sagittarius is the 9th sign and it has an association with the 9th house. It's about travel, expansion, our belief systems and things. And, the Pisces 12th house energy that Jupiter also has some dominion over is very much about our unconscious mind and kind of merging with all that is, but again, belief systems and spirituality really comes underneath it. The 9th house is also about laws and everything to do with overseas stuff. The opportunity to learn from different points of view and to balance things up. It's very much about the full context, which is very different to the Mercury energy that rules the signs opposite Jupiter's signs. So, for instance, Gemini and Virgo are the opposite signs of Sagittarius and Pisces, and Mercury has dominion over those. Mercury, the Gemini Virgo energy is about facts, whereas the Jupiterian energy is about what that means, what meaning we make. So there's a lot about meaning here. So I think, with Jupiter going into Leo, and and it's, you know, a pretty open and quite loud and quite proud sign, I think everything to do with meaning is going to be emphasized. Now, he oversaw a lot of things, and like I said, you know, he collaborated a lot, and I think this is also a trust of faith, a symbol of faith. You know, maybe this particular transit is going to encourage us to trust each other a lot more. I think that's going to be a huge thing. Now, I mentioned he was married to Juno but had indiscretions. I'm not laughing about indiscretions, by the way. There's this thing that, you know, Jupiter doesn't know when to stop. Is he a malicious planet? I would say not deliberately. However, you know, he follows his nose. He follows what feels good all the time, and then doesn't necessarily have the discernment to say, oh, hang on, this isn't so good. And so he forgets to pull back. Does that make him evil? I don't think so. Does it make him stupid? Yes, at times. So it's interesting. And it's interesting that Saturn was his father, and he overthrew his dad. I mean, Saturn did some pretty awful things, like to force Jupiter's hand to overthrow him. So they are in a little bit of a battle, but in this year ahead, they're going to be working beautifully together. So let's find out a little bit more on how this is going to relate to Leo. So if you think of Leo, Leo is ruled by the sun. It's about how we express ourselves. It's known for creativity, this innocence, this generosity. It's also known for being central, like a center of attention, a bit like the sun in the solar system. You know, everything kind of gravitates around the Leo. If you've got a bunch of friends and a Leo, or someone with a really strong Leo ascendant, you'll notice it because they tend to dominate, not necessarily in an evil cracking the whip kind of way, but more in they inspire others to follow them because they're happy, they're full of joy, they're often just wanting to have a great time, and they encourage that around the groups they're in. You know, having a Leo type person anywhere often feels really good. And so Jupiter, who is full of largesse in the sign of Leo, is going to be pretty heady, but it could get very distorted. And here's how. So you might find that when this Jupiter and Leo energy gets distorted, we've got this sort of almost anger at not being taken seriously or not being recognized. We might absolutely insist on being admired and validated, and everything can get very exaggerated because Jupiter loves to exaggerate. Pride and performance and entitlement are like massive words with this. This is less about doing things quietly from a place of service and a lot more about bragging rights. Now, with distorted energy, you can also have the flip side. So the flip side of this Jupiter and Leo energy may well show up where the energy to shine is so strong that actually you shy away and do completely the opposite. You know, so you refuse to shine. You kind of lock down your shininess, you lock down your skills, you lock down your talents. So you might also find that there are people avoiding being seen. So the distortions are being super, super visible versus being invisible. And so there's a lovely integrated space somewhere in the middle that hopefully is what we're going to be learning during this particular transit. In terms of the integration, you know, what Jupiter and Leo is teaching us is to dive down deep into ourselves and find our true level of confidence. I mentioned in my forecast just last week about how I find the Portuguese. I live in Portugal, by the way. I'm from England, but as you can probably tell from my accent, I've been living in Portugal for 9 years in a couple of months' time. And there's this natural authority that people have, not authority, a natural connection to being themselves, you know, and I really see it in the summer when everybody's on the beach and everyone's wandering around and off school and off work and stuff. You know, there seems to be this kind of energy around the Portuguese that just seems to accept themselves a little bit, you know, and I might be wrong because I know it's like, you know, when you look in on a culture and you think you're seeing what you're seeing, and you might not because you're not like in there talking with the actual people. But from my British background and having lived in quite a few different countries, one of the things I really appreciate seeing in the culture I'm living in currently is that there appears to be a relaxation around body shape, a relaxation around speaking up, a relaxation about being themselves. And I think this is going to come up with the Jupiter in Leo. It's going to say, hey, you're human, you're natural. It doesn't matter whether you're really skinny or really fat or feeling gorgeous or feeling ugly. Actually, like, it's not about your beauty. It's about your inner beauty. It's about your big old vulnerable heart and your innocence. You know, that kind of energy that you see in small children where they draw something for the first time and they feel so chuffed, and then they're not expecting to be criticized. They're not expecting to be knocked down. They're just freely expressing themselves. And I think this is what Jupiter in Leo is here to teach us, is what would you do if you didn't fear being knocked down? What would you do if you didn't fear ridicule, if you didn't fear being made wrong? Those moments where we fear standing somewhere where we can be seen, where we can be taken out, where we can be knocked down. Jupiter in Leo is here to help us find ways beyond that, like opening up a heart, making us believe in ourselves and to give it another go. So this is your time. And that to me is the integration, is where you can be heart-led, you can share the yumminess of what you think it is that you do. And you can stand in the center if you want to, without becoming this dominant force with excessive pride and whatnot. And the medicine, I think, when we're being wholehearted with our generosity and we're sharing our gifts and creativity and we're warm and we're joyful, then everyone else around us gets that little bit of confidence as well. Other people start to feel like, hey, I've got something to share. I really want to share this too. And so this is recognition at a really healthy, beautiful level where we absolutely know that it's about sharing. It's not about success. It's not about being the best. It's about opening yourself fully and being completely present in the moment. And so again, Jupiter in Leo, I think, bring it on. This is going to be really, really helpful. There's a few transits that are really coming up that I think are important. So between now and the end of August, we've got Jupiter in opposition to Pluto, which is pretty big. Doesn't happen that often, like every 6 years or so, obviously half of his cycle. He's also, at the same time as he's in opposition to Pluto, he's in a trine to Neptune. He's also in a sextile to Uranus and also a trine to Saturn. Now, these are all going to fade off, but the trine to Saturn is going to be with us for 8 out of the 12 months of Jupiter cycle through Leo. So that's pretty consistent. And it might not be that he is exactly in what's known as a trine with Saturn, but he's within the orb range. So Jupiter and Saturn are working harmoniously for most of the year. They're also both working within fire signs for the whole year. So, Jupiter, which is about expansion, is in a fire sign. Fire signs are naturally inspiring, naturally confident, naturally bright, naturally wanting to work with some speed, and very outward facing. Saturn, in a fire sign, is also picking up on those characteristics, but he's lending it some structure. So we've got expansion and structure, like a structured expansion, an expansion that's purposeful through the vehicle of the fire signs, which is absolutely going to help us share our gifts and develop our gifts in a huge way. During Jupiter's transit through Leo as well, he's going to be working through an opposition to the North Node for about 8 months out of the 12, so out of the year. So very similar to Saturn. So Jupiter is pretty much like, he's working with all of the outer planets between now and the end of August. And he's working harmoniously with Neptune and Uranus. So he's getting a lot of support to challenge Pluto, we could say. And then he's working with Saturn and the North Node. Now, the North Node is really encouraging us to get on our path. So we've got Saturn strengthening our path and helping us to measure and discern and make really sensible decisions. And we've got the North Node really helping us to find our path and know where we're going. And Jupiter, is working with both of these energies. So this is one of the biggest Jupiter in Leo energies we've got. symbolically as well, because Pluto is in the opposite sign to Jupiter. And even when they come out of their opposition, they're still working through opposite houses, opposite signs. And, you know, Jupiter's associated with the South Node all of this time and is in opposition to the North Node. We've got this very strong Leo Aquarius axis, you know, and Jupiter is absolutely going to be challenging that axis a load during this next year. So we need to understand the Jupiter North Node and Pluto energy. There's also going to be 2 more solar eclipses. We've got one coming up in August, on August the 12th, across Leo and Aquarius. And then we've got one in February of next year as well. So there's a lot for us to consider. And again, I just take you back, you know, what were you doing from August the 1st, 2002 or July 16th, 2014, you know, for those years, because these were the last time that Jupiter was in Leo. If you can remember what was going on, you might find that there's a similar repeating pattern according to the house. Obviously, I can have a look at those according to your ascendant sign. So just check those out. It's all indexed for you. So let's get cracking. I'm going to look at Jupiter and all of his aspects through all 12 signs of the zodiac to give you a really good little burst of insight as to how to use this, how to expand beyond social pressure, and to make these 2 competing houses work together in an integrated way. Let's get going. Hey there, Aries Ascendant. This is a short forecast for a medium length transit of Jupiter going into the sign of Leo in your 5th house, and the effects that that's going to create for you in your life. Jupiter is a planet to do with expansion, a feeling of warmth, confidence, a generosity. Jupiter is all about feeling bigger, feeling better, and it's also very much about our belief systems. And so Jupiter is in a really interesting place for you in this next year, because his energies are going to be combining with the Leo energy, which is all about self-expression and finding your joy. But the 5th house is also very much about finding your joy and also what you're birthing. Now, by birthing, I don't necessarily mean children, though it does include children. The 5th house is known as our house of children and the people that we're looking after, the things that we're tending to with a certain amount of joy. That includes your creative projects. So if you're kind of filling yourself up right now with the promise of your creativity, this is a really good time to birth it all forwards. And Jupiter, as he does, he's going to expand on all that birthing energy. So this is very important. This is a really rich part of your life. Now, the 5th house is also seen as a house of intimacy and new relationships. You know, we tend to meet people in the 5th house and then we commit to them in the 7th. And so this could also be a time, especially if you're single and looking for somebody, Jupiter coming into your 5th can absolutely bring you a feeling of warmth and generosity, and also this feeling that something is possible, something is ready to be birthed through you. Now, this can bring in much greater intimacy, sexual energies, and sensuality coming forwards, which is obviously quite a nice little byproduct of this transit. Now, throughout this next 12 months, Jupiter is going to be involved in a couple of alignments that I think are really important. So the first one would be he is interacting with the Barbault's basket, which is already coming into its exact position. It will be really there between the 19th and 23rd of July. And then it's just starting to slowly fade out come mid-August. But it's part of this lineup. And this lineup, I think the energies that are created right now are energies that are likely to carry us over for a good couple of years. And I think they're sowing the seeds for a whole new way of life, and something that's really quite positive. Now, I've spoken about this basket in other forecasts very recently, so I won't double up on those. But one thing that does occur to me is that Saturn is going to be in a trine with Jupiter for 8 months out of the next 12. Now, this is really helpful because Jupiter is about expansion. Saturn is about contraction. Saturn regulates things. Jupiter dysregulates things. You know, he makes things grow very fast, and things can get a little bit euphoric and sometimes a little bit heady with Jupiter, especially in the sign of Leo and especially in the 5th house. So if you imagine Jupiter's like the balloon, Saturn is like the string holding the balloon and making sure that you stay tethered. So what I like about this is the tethering is taking place in your 1st house, which is about your identity. This is where you're strengthening yourself up. You're testing all of your structures for your identity. So for instance, maybe your muscles, your tendons, your bones. It's like you're exercising and working your body, and also all the different parts of your life that help to structure you. You're also working those with some precision and I would say discernment. You know, Saturn coming through the 1st house definitely brings us a level of discernment. And then Jupiter here is lifting you up, is giving you that sense of vibrancy that Saturn in the 1st can sometimes forget about. And so what I see here is you're coming into this time of consistency and stability, but with vibrancy and quite a lot of passion. So, you know, something is absolutely moving. Now, we've also got the polarity switch from the North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo going into Aquarius and Leo. So we're also going to have a bit of South Node action coming in over this next year ahead, whilst Jupiter's also in Leo. To me, this is reminding you of all the great, expansive, joyful, generous things that you've done. And so the South Node, as it gets closer and closer to Jupiter, and as Jupiter gets closer and closer to the South Node, this is to remind you of your magnificence. This is to remind you that where you're going right now, you're not venturing there alone. You've already been there. You've already had momentary feelings, and maybe there were times when things went really easily in the past, and then you kind of moved out of that alignment for a little bit. You know, sometimes we get a taster for things before things start to coalesce. It's like we have to sample a lot of different styles. Well, this is a pretty big style, and so this is coming in a big way. Another thing with Jupiter, he has a 12-year cycle, and so the last time Jupiter was here would have been from 2014 to 2015. So you might want to ask yourself, well, what was I doing then? What was expanding about me? Where was I going into a lot more joy back then? When was I maybe getting more intimate with a partner? You know, all of those things I've already mentioned. Where were you already doing it? Now, this one, I think, is going to bring a lot more expertise and a lot more confidence, just because the rest of the planetary makeup is really, really strong. It's really supporting Jupiter to do something really quite wonderful. So whatever you were creating for yourself 12 years ago, you can go so much further, so much deeper, and with a lot more joy. This is about you enjoying yourself. Now, there's a few more things I want to mention. Throughout this time, Jupiter is, you know, while Jupiter's in Leo, we've got Pluto in Aquarius, and they start off with this opposition, which I think is putting us into a bit of a dilemma. You know, Jupiter in Leo is wanting us to expand and to feel magnificent. It's wanting us to feel really confident, come into leadership, feel really generous about your creativity, and to really inspire others by leading by example. But Pluto in the 11th, I think, is putting a bit of social pressure on us. So you might find that it's a little bit difficult sometimes to shine, because it feels like people in and around your social networks and things are maybe a little bit hard on the expansiveness. And so this is just showing up until mid-August. After that, Jupiter is breaking free. So what you might find helpful to do for the rest of July and the beginning of August is to really feel into what you are becoming, but maybe if it feels too tense, to kind of put your head up, you know, like tall poppy syndrome, like to grow a bit higher, to be a bit more visible. It might not feel quite safe to do that until we get through towards the end of August. And then after that, Jupiter is absolutely flying. When this energy is distorted within you, you might find that It's all about your creativity, and that you become absolutely single-minded about your creativity and don't want anyone else's help and things like that. But when it's really integrated, you're feeling confident about what you're doing. And you feel really, really rooted in your heart. Now, the medicine here is just to shine your own light. So whether you're birthing a child, whether you're in a new relationship and really enjoying yourself, or whether you're really developing what is absolutely true for you, this is a time to be sharing your own light and feeling in the goodness of it. So I wish you a beautiful time of this, Aries. Now, if you'd like to explore how Jupiter in Leo is working with your actual chart, so you can maybe think about things like success and prominence and visibility, all those Jupiterian things, especially Leo things as well, then just book a session with me and we can take it from there. If you'd like some extra support, then also consider joining my free community on the School platform. The address is www.school.com, that's SKOOL.com/Feel Good Astrology. But sending you loads of love. Have a good one and catch up with you soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Taurus rising. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Now, this is a short forecast for Jupiter having gone into the sign of Leo. He went in just over a week ago on the 30th of June, and he's going to be there until the 26th of July, 2027. So just under a year. Now, this is Jupiter moves one sign every year. The last time he was in this position was in 2014 until 2015. So if you want a little reminder, a little memory reminder of what he has brought to you, just ask yourself, what was I doing back then? Right now, he's gone into your fourth house, and this is an angular house. This is a very important house for you as a Taurian rising person, because the fourth house is about family and home. And so what I'm going to do in this short forecast is talk through how Jupiter in the fourth house is going to bring you pleasant change, hopefully. Lots of different opportunities at home. I'll be talking through that, but I also want to link it into the rest of what's going on with the planets, including the fact that it's in a trine to Saturn for 8 months out of the next 12 months. And I think this is really important for the year ahead, because Jupiter is very much about expansion and being generous and overflowing and feeling quite confident. And Saturn is our planet that kind of tethers us and reduces things and condenses things. And so they're going to work together. They're going to find a nice balance, I think. We've also got the Barbault basket, which is coming in right now as I'm recording this, and it will be fading out throughout mid-August. Though I will say Pluto, Neptune and Uranus are still going to be working together for quite some time yet. So it's not completely fading off. Just this part of the basket is. The fact that Jupiter's gone into Leo and aligned with this at the beginning of his transit and is working with Saturn, to me, is saying that this particular Jupiter in Leo transit is much stronger than previous ones. So whatever you were doing in 2014, this is like 2014 on steroids, only you're 12 years wiser and stronger with more experience, a lot more life behind you. And so I think this is a very, very strong transit and one to be quite excited by. You know, Jupiter in Leo is very much about inspiring other people. You know, Jupiter is big. He is highly visible. He helps us to know what we feel really good about and optimistic about and hopeful about. He brings in a sense of generosity. He increases things. He increases things that he touches, but it's not necessarily just about space. It's also about wisdom. It's also about spirituality. He's very faithful. And so seeing him come into the fourth house, to me, is suggesting that your family is changing shape or your home is changing shape. You know, what do you need to increase in your home? Do you need more space in your home right now? Are more people coming into your home? What about that sort of Jupiter energy in your home? It's feeling a little bit more like a book club or a place where people gather, a place where people congregate to share their thoughts and to share their feelings. You know, Jupiter's quite philosophical, and, you know, in the home, also with the sign of Leo, it almost feels like your home is the home where everyone is feeling safe and everyone's coming in. So I really feel that Jupiter is creating this sense of belonging for you over this year ahead, which I think is really important. Now, at the start of his transit, and we're right in it right now, Jupiter is in a very sharp opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Now, I do think that Pluto in Aquarius, one of the downsides of that is Pluto in Aquarius is so very much wanting everyone to have an equal experience, and is trying to maybe control. I think there's a lot of pressure, social pressure, coming from Pluto in Aquarius. And of course, Jupiter's a highly social planet, and in a very highly social sign, a very dominant sign. I mean, Leo is a sign that needs to be recognized and needs to be seen. And so it may well just throughout July and in the early parts of August, it may well feel like as your home is getting more important and it's getting warmer and more generous, and it feels a lot more hopeful and optimistic, as that feeling of warmth develops at home, it feels like there's pressure from the career or pressure from the outside. And I can't explain that anymore because I'm not living your life right now. And I've got Scorpio rising, so I've got a very different setup in my chart. But the social pressure that you might feel from your career, or the social pressure you might feel from the people that maybe you're trying to impress, or your bosses, or people that you're working around, anything that's kind of outside of your home, it looks like you're building up your home, and that's really important, but the outside world might not quite understand it. And so I think from the end of August, you're going to feel a lot more free at home. As Jupiter moves out of this opposition, it's going to feel much, much better. Now, Jupiter also is in a square right at the start to Chiron. And to me, that's encouraging you to heal through the home. Chiron in the first house is going to bring up quite a lot of things that you want to heal in yourself. And Jupiter in a square is actually going to help you see that if your home's right, that can actually help you. But it might be a bit difficult to get that balance right between you and home. But again, like I said, from August, later on in August, as Jupiter moves through the fourth house, you'll start to feel a sense of stability come like arise within you as Jupiter goes into this trine with Saturn. Now, Saturn, like I mentioned, is a bit tethering. In the 12th house, he's helping you organize your mental health, how to take yourself seriously, how to maybe change some of the inner programs that you've got, any inner self-sabotage, any programs that have stopped you from enjoying your home life, connecting with your family. Saturn, I think, is going to give you a bit of a workout. It's going to show you what you might need to change, what you might need to soften on, and also where you might need to be a little bit more disciplined. But Saturn is actually really going to strengthen the Jupiter experience. So, for instance, Jupiter in the fourth house can get so open and welcoming to everybody that everybody piles into the home. It's almost like you don't have boundaries. Jupiter in the fourth is quite unboundaried, hence why sometimes people realize they're living in too small a space and they have to move. This is a time when people do tend to want to move or expand in some way. So Saturn here in the 12th, I think, is going to give you a sense of measure and a sense of what you're hoping to achieve. Now, when this is distorted, you might find that there are some people at home, in your home, maybe people in your family, who are really seeking extra significance and extra attention within the home. So you might find that some aspects of your home suddenly get bigger, larger than life. And maybe that's you. I mean, maybe you're wanting to get a little bit bigger in your own home and be a bit more seen. This energy is a lot more integrated when you're just feeling really authentic in it and not really feeling the need to be seen, but that you're just expressing yourself from the heart. Really, this is to root you in the heart so you can express your love for your family, express your love for your home, and it just feel really beautiful. It's like you're sharing your own light. And so I think this is actually a really magnificent time to almost stabilize your roots, and feel a lot more optimistic about your roots. And then from that warm, hopeful feeling, you can start to expand. I think this could be a really, really great transit where you're feeling a sense of recovery at home and in your family. So I'm wishing you a really beautiful transit here, Taurus. You could absolutely get so much more stable and have that sort of magical home feeling and experience. If you'd like to explore this with me, to see what Jupiter might be bringing you more specifically according to your chart. For instance, he is talking about success, and in the sign of Leo, Leo is very much about our success and our visibility. If you want to look at those parts of your chart with Jupiter for this year ahead, I can absolutely work on that with you. All you need to do is just book in a session with me on Calendly, and the link is below. If you'd like more forecasts from me on a regular basis, then also please consider joining my free school community. It's on the school platform. The address is www.school, that's skool.com/feelgoodastrology. So I hope you have a lovely transit, and catch up with you all soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Gemini. This is a shortish forecast all about Jupiter in the sign of Leo. He went in just over a week ago on the 30th of June. He's going to be there until the 26th of July, 2027. So just under a year. Now, Jupiter is a planet of expansion, and so we really look at him in our charts to find out how we might be expanding ourselves, how we might come more into success or our own sense of prominence and our own visibility. He's also a planet of luck and admiration and faith, and also belief systems. He also helps us feel quite philosophical about things. I mean, he's got a lovely joie de vivre, he's got a lovely sort of energy. It's a real feel-good planet for sure. And so in this forecast, what I'm going to do is talk about how he's come into Leo, i.e. right now he's in opposition to Pluto. He's also featured within a rare basket formation, which I've spoken about in other forecasts. And he's also going to be in a trine to Saturn for 8 out of the 12 months ahead. This one's very important. We've also got the North Node and the South Node coming into this Aquarius and Leo energy. So, you've got the North Node and Pluto in Aquarius, and you'll have the South Node and Jupiter in the third house in the sign of Leo. And so that's also going to be playing a part in this. So let's dive in. So from your perspective, Jupiter's just gone into the third house. Now, the third house is all about, I think, our sense of belonging to the community that we are born into. Now, you might not still be there. You might have moved away, like most of us have. And, it will now be your local community, where you meet and greet people, where you go and have a coffee, where you might go to the library, the pub, the gym. It's your location. It's that sense of belonging to the location around your home. It's also your siblings, your cousins, all these kind of brothers and sisters around you, that sort of familial energy. And with the third house comes this sense of narrative. Every community has a kind of narrative, that the people that you meet and socialize with, there are usually uniting beliefs that hold you together, that you understand. And so Jupiter coming into this very social house, I think, is very helpful, because if you've wanted to get a greater sense of belonging in your local community, this is a year when it's really likely to happen. You're likely to feel a lot more popular. You're likely to be called on a lot more by the people. You'll find that like the invites are flowing, that things are getting a bit faster. You might find that you've got a choice of things to do. You don't know quite where to put your energy. This is also a time when there's a lot of fertility around things that you're wanting to seed in your community. So if you've got a special skill, or if there's a hobby or something that you want to learn about, this would be a fantastic time to learn, a local college, night school and things like that. I'm not talking really strong academic learning necessarily, but like skills, things that you can share and things that you can enjoy, like a cookery class or a book club and things like that. So to me, it just feels like this is a time to be really busy. Now, if you work for yourself, this is brilliant, because it's bringing you much more popularity and a much more visibility in your local market, if you work in the local market, that is. If you're single, again, this is going to raise your visibility and popularity in your local area. So you're more likely to find success through friends and friends of friends. And just by being your usual self, this is going to really encourage this kind of experience. I mean, the third house is also a house that really relates to Gemini rising. So to me, this feels synonymous with you. It just feels like Jupiter is expanding all the things that you really believe in. Now, talking about things that you believe in, you know, Jupiter is very much about belief systems and a sense of faith, a faithfulness. And whether you have a faith or not, Jupiter is likely to bring in a sense of spirituality. So, for instance, you might find that what you're doing with your friends and where you're meeting people starts to have a bit more of a grounded spiritual backbone, or a feeling of like there's a sort of philosophical connection to the things that you're interested in this year. So it feels nice. It feels a lot more cohesive. You might find that some of your views about what's going on in your local area, or what's going on in your country and stuff, and with your people and with your countrymen, changes and shifts a little bit, because Jupiter is likely to bring a lot of fresh ideas in, which brings me to my next point, which is at the start of this, there is an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Now, he is in the ninth house, which can show that there's a lot of new information coming from far away. And it feels like lots of things outside of your natural consciousness and lots of things outside of your natural community are coming in. And Pluto, it's almost like Darth Vader coming in. It might be that you're aware of lots of different things that are a bit scary, or things that bring up fears. You know, there might be ideas on, I'm safe here, but out there it just looks a little bit murky. So Pluto can bring us things that can feel a little bit scary, but he can also bring us depth and intensity. And so you might find that there's a bit of a pull between what you know and enjoy, and where you're feeling excited about and feeling really connected with in your local community, versus higher matters that feel maybe slightly more important, slightly intense, slightly deep, and as if they have real survival attached to them. So to me, it feels just like that you'll feel much safer at home, and slightly more challenged when you're considering what occurs outside of what you consider your safe space. And you might feel social pressure to commit to some of these ideas that are coming from far away, that aren't necessarily directly relatable yet. So early on in this transit, I think until mid-August, you might feel a sense of social pressure as all of these planets start lining up into their perfect basket. As this passes, and after we've had our solar eclipse in on the 12th of August, as we're getting past the 15th of August, I think you'll start to feel a lot more relaxed, and that it's okay to see other ideas. It won't seem like there's so much of a threat coming from far away. Now, the North Node going into the ninth house again is putting pressure on you to see what's outside of your local community and local point of reference. However, the South Node is coming into the third house later on this month, and it's reminding you of all the goodness that you've had at home, all the great people you know, all the great local reputations. And so actually, I just feel, no matter how interested in the world you are in this year ahead, Gemini, I just really feel like your energies are really coming back to where you're rooted and where you know who's around you, where you know where like who your mechanic is, who your accountant is, who, you know, where you just know who's who. I guess it's like you've got the Knights of the Round Table, you've got your own knights. It's worth investing some time and effort into maintaining your friendships, so that no matter what's going on in the world, it feels very much like you're safe and secure in this very warm, optimistic and hopeful place. Now, with Saturn going into the into this trine with Jupiter, this is going to be really great because the 11th house is your friends and networks, and it takes you slightly further afield and into online territory, like online groups and online tribes and your online family, you could say. And then Jupiter here is in your real everyday lived experience. See, Saturn is showing you here that even if you have a little bit more discernment and you have to be a bit more disciplined with your online social life, and that you might be studying something online, you might be paying a lot of attention to what's going on online. Jupiter is really here for you to experience things, in real life. I almost said IRL then, like all the young kids do, IRL, in real life. So Jupiter's giving you an in real life experience. It's reminding you that actually we do have online lives and real lives. And now it's actually more important to invest in what's real around you. Now, the social pressure is not meant to help you forget where your magnificence is. And as the South Node comes in here, it's reminding you of times when you've been like the social best, where you've been very popular, where you felt very relaxed and at ease, where you've learned things very easily. And so this is a time to actually prepare to thrive, I would say. If you find that you're seeking attention or shrinking from visibility, it means that the Jupiter energy is not quite integrated, because the integration here is when you're feeling confident and self-expressed. It's where you're feeling really rooted in your heart. And so anywhere where you're shrinking from visibility or really needing to be seen, to me, that's interacting with something to do with maybe Chiron here in your 12th house. It's suggesting something from the past is coming up. However, as this transit goes through and Jupiter moves away from Chiron, which would be here if I'd put him in, you should start to find that you're getting more and more confident in yourself, and that you're starting to shine from your own light. So I hope that's helpful for you, Gemini. I do think this is really your scene. It really feels like this is a really good time for you. So yeah, to wrap this up then, if you'd like to explore this directly with me in your own chart, for instance, Jupiter also talks about your success and how to be seen in the real world, how to develop your business and things like that. Jupiter's very forward thinking. Then feel free to just book a session with me on my Calendly link. Or if you want to be part of a community that feels like it's quite supportive and where we talk about astrology and there's a lot of different things going on, then feel free to join my free online community on the School platform. The address is www.school.com/feelgoodastrology. Anyway, wishing you a magnificent transit in the sign of Leo, and take care. Catch you soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Cancer Ascendant. This one is for you. This is a short Jupiter in Leo forecast where I'm talking about the sort of potentials that Jupiter's come into Leo with. That includes that he's part of a basket formation. All of this is spoken about in the first part of the video, by the way. He's also in a bit of a tight opposition to Pluto right at the start as well. So I'll be talking about that. But we've also got this really lovely trine that Jupiter is going to be making to Saturn throughout most of this transit. In fact, he's going to be in a trine to Saturn for 8 months out of the 12 in this year ahead, which I think is really fortuitous. So this is going to keep you going until the 26th of July, 2027. Now, this transit is happening in your second house, and there's a lot of oppositional energy coming up in your 8th house, which is really showing that there is a value-based learning going on right now in your life. And Jupiter, which is a planet of luck and enterprise and open-heartedness and hopefulness and optimism, Jupiter is a planet that really brings in a sense of confidence, real confidence. And he's kind of shiny. And so having him coming into your second house, I think really bodes well in terms of feeling better about yourself, learning how to value yourself, and and to put a higher price on yourself, to realize you're worth it, to feel into deservability. To me, Jupiter's going to really help you in this year ahead. So that's really what I want to explore today. So first of all, what's Jupiter about? Well, Jupiter is here to expand on everything that he touches. And so, he's coming into your second house, and he's going to look inside your second house and ask you, Cancer, how do you feel about what you earn? How do you feel about the way you're earning? Does it fill you up? Does it make you feel joyful? Does it make you feel hopeful and optimistic? Do you get the good feels? If not, then he's going to encourage a lot of philosophical discussion over this next year to find out what gives you the good feels. Now, the great thing is at the same time, Saturn is in your 10th house, and he is already giving you a career workout. Saturn in the 10th is asking you, like, are you ready for leadership or not? Are you ready? Because if you're not ready to lead yourself, and someone is going to come in and lead you, that's for sure. And so Saturn is helping you to create helpful structures around you that will help you in your career. He's also there to help you have a bit more self-discipline and a little bit more discernment at work and in terms of where you want to put your energy. When Jupiter comes into this lovely trine with Saturn, Jupiter is in effect kind of adding his little fairy dust everywhere. He's got this kind of helpful outlook. He has this sense of optimism and luck. And of course, it just so happens that when he puts his optimism and luck, you get opportunities, fresh opportunities, things that feel maybe a little bit out of the blue. But if you're feeling hopeful and optimistic, it tends to work out. So my first piece of advice, I would say, is it's really important to expect good things to happen in your career and expect good things to happen in your work. Now, Jupiter multiplies things. And so you might find that your wages are about to increase. You might find also that there are multiple places that you might want to work in, that you don't want to be tied down to one particular job, but actually right now you're going to do a couple of jobs. To me, Jupiter is increasing things, whether it's your own effort or your own resources or your own earnings. There's going to be an element of growth. Now, he's also looking after your self-esteem and self-worth. And so he's going to ask you to be really open-hearted and generous with yourself. He's going to ask you, can you receive? Are you happy receiving your earnings? Are you happy receiving resources from people that want to gift you? Are you open to things? Because anywhere where you're blocked, it's going to be very difficult for you to receive things. And Jupiter, I think, is working on you to open you up to receive more. He's kind of knocking on the door and saying, come on, open up, like open up, get ready for some luck. So it's really important to just be ready for it and expect it. But of course, if you're not feeling like you deserve it, it's going to be very difficult to hear that. So that's definitely a learning, I would say, is coming in. Now, at the beginning of this transit, until we're around like the 15th, 16th of August, and the basket, like Jupiter is just moving out of this basket situation, you might feel that it's hard to get excited about your money because it feels like everybody else has a say in what you're doing. So whether it's your boss, your partner, your parents, your kids, your ex, your whoever, the bank man, the IRS, whatever it is, it just feels like you're lacking a sense of freedom with your money and your resources until mid-August. And around mid-August, when Jupiter moves out of this opposition with Pluto, you'll start to feel like you have less pressure. Now, I do think there's a certain amount of social pressure coming from Pluto in Aquarius. It's kind of pressuring everybody to sort of conform and agree on what they believe. And you might find that there's pressure from people that like family, your partner, your exes, and in-laws and things like that. You might feel like there's social pressure from like familial or ancestral pressure to carry a narrative about you that you might not agree with. Like if, for instance, to use my own words, in my childhood, I felt like there was this narrative that I was the wild one and I was the different one and I was the unusual one. And it's like everyone in my family that held that belief in effect were asking me to go along with it, to endorse their belief and to say, yeah, okay, I'm the wild one. You know, when it feels like people are judging you for something. Now you don't necessarily have to accept it, but I do think it's helpful to get at peace with it. So you might feel until we get midway through August that you're people have a listening for you that they're unwilling to give up. And in many respects, there's nothing we can do about how people listen to us and feel us and experience us. But what we can do is get really clear about how we experience ourselves and who we are. And so to me, this is like from August onwards, I think Jupiter in Leo in your second house is encouraging you to love yourself and to find values in yourself, irrespective of whether people can see it and people can understand it, or even if people agree with your own evaluation of yourself. Jupiter here is going to be building confidence so that actually you don't even seek to find out what they think. You know, it's almost like it's of no business of mine, you know. And so it's creating freedom. And I think that's one of the best aspects of Jupiter in your second house right now. Now, with the South Node coming into the sign of Leo at the end of, it starts at the end of July and it's really finishing, coming into Leo in mid-August, and then it's absolutely, definitely 100% in Leo. The South Node is reminding you of when things, when you were last feeling at ease in yourself. And so you might notice, like, the last time the South Node was here in your second house would have been about 19 years ago. And you know, every time the South Node is coming through here, it's reminding you about earlier versions of yourself. It's reminding you about what you've known about yourself and actually where you found yourself easy. Maybe you've had ease in yourself. You know, we go through phases, don't we, of loving ourselves and then maybe feeling a little bit ill at ease. And then maybe we come back into that ease again. So the South Node coming in here is actually going to be reminding you about your good points, reminding you about what you've done well, what you found easy, what you've kind of been in flow with. And of course, ease and flow and grace are words that Jupiter absolutely loves. And so the South Node and Jupiter, from August onwards, they're just going to be coming closer and closer together. And as their energies combine, as their energies come closer together, you should find that you're growing in ease in yourself, and your sense of self-esteem is starting to be kind of radiant. You know, it's like it starts in here, and by, July 2027, other people can feel that sense of ease in yourself. So I think this is a very special time for you, because I think you're going to get a lot more visibility and you'll be seen for shining out what is really rooted in your heart, which is really, really lovely. So I think that kind of does it, actually. I do want to say the basket's helpful. You've also got Neptune in your 10th house, which is also making you want to have a very sort of creative and spiritual feel in terms of your career. And so with Saturn here and Jupiter in your second house of money and self-esteem, to me, it looks like your creative vision for yourself is going to manifest a lot more easily. And then with Uranus in your 12th house, it's also raising your intuition as well. And so that intuition is likely to give you some really strong hits of, yes, that's definite. Yes, let's explore that. So I do think your intuition and your creativity is also expanded during this time, and that will really assist Jupiter in the process of making you feel more confident. So I hope that's helpful to you, Cancer. If you'd like to explore how because Jupiter is about success as well, and how you can expand and kind of raise your own game, if you'd like to explore that in your actual birth chart, not this one, then feel free to book a session with me using my Calendly link. and we can have a conversation about that together. If you'd like a bit more support with extra forecasts and a little bit of discussion and hangouts, then feel free to come and join me in my school community. It's a free community that you can join. The address is www.school, that's skool.com/feelgoodastrology. So have a lovely time, Cancer, sending you lots of love and have a fabulous transit of Jupiter in the sign of Leo. Bye for now. Hey there, Leo. This is a short forecast for you because you've got Jupiter going through your first house right now with your Leo ascendant. Now, how cool is this? The largest planet going through your first house. This is actually quite an important transit. It's going on for a whole year. It actually went in on the 30th of June, and it's going to be there until the 26th of July 2027. Now, the last time this happened was in July 2014 until July 2015. If you can remember what was going on back there for you during that time as a theme, that could be quite helpful for you to understand what's coming up now. So what I'm going to do in this short forecast is express what I think Jupiter is representing to you in the sign of Leo in your first house. First of all, from the position he's in right now, like he is in an ongoing opposition with Pluto. He's also forming one end of a basket, which is a very unusual constellation of planets. It's a very unusual setup. There's also going to be a lovely trine to Saturn for 8 months out of the next 12 months, which I think is going to be hugely supportive to you. And we've also got the South Node coming into Leo and the North Node going into your 7th house. So that's also going to be part of this. I recently mentioned a kind of stereotypical idea about Jupiter going into the first house. And it comes up in a lot of readings, watch out, Jupiter is a planet of expansion. When he comes into your first house, the first house is absolutely about your body, your identity, that he can lead to an increase of weight, that you might get bigger. In fact, the last time Jupiter went over my ascendant, I was heavily pregnant with my last child. And, that is absolutely something that you can experience. But Jupiter isn't just about the expansion. I mean, if we look at the story of him, he is a magnificent planet, magnanimous, very optimistic, very hopeful. He's also a little bit inflammatory. On the one hand, if you think of expansion, it's also inflammation. He can inflame situations that are already going on for you. He's also a planet, as described earlier in this video. He is a planet that's absolutely ascribed to mythology, to spirituality, to religion, to high thoughts, in fact. So he is absolutely a character who can create a whole sense of wisdom as he comes into the first house. He's a very, very philosophical planet. And so Jupiter, wherever he goes, is expanding your vision and expanding your potential for wisdom, as well as expanding everything else. Now, he's also associated with confidence and this kind of natural radiating energy. And, and he can be a little bit, he can play around, he can play tricks a little bit. He's got a very great sense of humor. And so that kind of tomfoolery can really come out when he's in your first house. Mostly what I see is when he comes into the first house is you become larger than life. And so I think that's probably where a lot of other astrologers might say, oh yeah, you're going to put on weight. First of all, I would never say that. You might put on weight, you might expand, you might be heavily pregnant. But, if we're reading this in a holistic way, that's also the expansion of you as a person. You could become larger than life. Your confidence might increase. You might feel really warm and really optimistic and very hopeful. You might find that your public image expands, like you might become highly visible during this time as Jupiter comes into your first house. And you might also grow as a person, you might evolve. So Jupiter has a very, very distinct role here whilst he's in your first house. It's very important. Now, when I'm thinking ahead to any kind of transit, Not so much with the inner planets, you know, the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, but the bridging planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and I also consider Chiron to be in that category. They're very much bridging consciousness between the outer planets and the inner planets. So these bridges are very, very important. And then the outer planets are obviously very important because they spend such a long time in every sign and house in your chart. But any planet that's going to spend at least a year in your chart, i.e. like Jupiter, it's always worth seeing where he's going, seeing the action that he's going to be taking. Because if you can see it coming up, you might want to sow the seeds a little bit. You might want to till the ground a little bit so that when he comes in, you're ready for him. Because I really think, you know, Jupiter here could be absolutely primed to help you expand your reach and expand your personality. Now, even if you haven't tilled the ground, so to speak, or prepared the ground for his energy, I don't think he's going to start getting super active until around the end of August. Now, the reason for this is right now, like as he came into the sign of Leo just a short while ago, he has been in an opposition to Pluto. Now, Pluto's in a very strong place for you right now. You know, he's in the early degrees of Aquarius, is in your seventh house, sorry. And I think this brings in quite a lot of social pressure. And of course, Jupiter is wanting to expand beyond everything. And so a big question that's coming up is, how are you going to expand beyond social pressure? But this social pressure is really, really strong until mid-August, where it really starts to fade off and ease out. And then Jupiter doesn't feel quite so constrained, doesn't feel quite so captured. And so, you know, that's one reason why I think after August, Jupiter's really going to get into his stride. There's another thing as well. We've got the North Node moving out of Pisces and into the sign of Aquarius. And similarly, we're going to have the South Node moving out of Virgo and into the sign of Leo. Now, the true nodes, these are all shifting at the end of July. If you're looking at the mean nodes, which some people prefer to do, they're moving mid-August. But again, by the, you know, like the mid to the end of August, we've had another significant shift. So, you know, what I mean by that is there's a whole new feeling for Jupiter to expand into. Once he's out of the constraints of Pluto, he's going to feel like he's really free to do his own thing. In fact, as he moves away from his opposition with Pluto, he's moving into a trine with Saturn that is going to allow him to grow, but in a stable and protected way, I would say. So there's a lot of comfort. Like if you haven't really prepared for him to come into your first house, don't worry. Over the next 5 to 6 weeks, I think you've got some time to sow the seeds of what you'd like him to achieve for you, so that towards late August, you can really get cracking with that. So let's explore that. So right now, he's in this basket position, working, like feeling the tension with Pluto. He wants to expand, but is feeling a little bit held back by social pressure, possibly pressure from partners, possibly pressure from business, clients, colleagues. In fact, the people who you've committed to in some way, it's like anyone that you've got a commitment with right now, it might feel like they're quite a strong influence, and it's very difficult for you to expand beyond the pressure that they are putting on you. Now, they might not actually be putting pressure on you, might just be feeling it if you're really sensitive. There's also Neptune up in the 9th, which is really encouraging you to expand outside of your usual understanding of spirituality. Maybe there's new things that you're learning, new things that you're seeing, this desire to learn something and maybe even train in something, you know, to learn it at a much deeper level. There's this kind of wanderlust, and it's for a lot of things at the same time. It's not just for one thing. In fact, you might find your sort of expansive direction a little bit confusing, because Neptune really opens up the possibilities. and you can subtly feel so many things at the same time. So it's almost like there's this intuitive learning that's going on right now, and a real need to suck up any spirituality around you. So here with Neptune and Jupiter working together in a trine early on, it's like there's an inner guide or an inner guru talking to you. And then as Jupiter moves beyond this position towards mid August, he's going to be coming into this alignment, this trine with Saturn. Then he's going to really feel the benefit of any practice and training and learning, like official learning, studying and things like that you do. Also, when you're practicing communicating, when you're writing, when you're expressing your viewpoint, I think Saturn is giving you some discernment, and Jupiter is kind of clearing your vocal cords so you can be heard. So there's some real sort of like great things coming in. And then you've got Uranus in the 11th house, which is opening up your vision and helping you connect to people who've got similar visions to you. So when you combine that and also add in that Jupiter is there in your first house, ready to help you expand your persona, potentially make you larger than life, whatever that means to you, and also calling in a more magnificent side to you, all of these are really giving you the, I don't know, like the it's like all the little ingredients in an overall recipe, and that recipe is you're expanding in this year. Now, when we add in the South Node coming in to the sign of Leo, as this transit goes on, the South Node and Jupiter are going to get closer and closer. The South Node is reminding you of all the great things that you have been, that you are, and that you're still going to be. Anywhere where you felt at ease. And it might be helpful over the next 5 weeks to think gently about it, and playfully about it. When did I really like being me? When did I really like being in my body? When did I really use my body? When did I get joy from my body? What kind of things was I doing at that time? How was I being in the world at that time? And you'll be getting a few clues as to what is wanting to be expressed through you. Now, because the first house has a lot to do with identity, I would say you're about to kind of break beyond a shell that you've put yourself in, and you're ready to move beyond it. So this is actually quite an important transit for you. Like I said, if you can remember what was going on July 2014 through to the summer of 2015, that will give you a sense of where you were expanding. And this one is a lot more important because there's just so much more outer planet support for Jupiter, that what you're hoping to achieve is much more likely to come through fluidly. You'll be able to articulate yourself. You'll know what's what. So I really think this is a time for you to come into your magnificence and to grow in your confidence. Now, during this time, like one of the things with Jupiter is his energy can get quite distorted. He does like to be seen. He's highly visible, and in the sign of Leo as well. Not Leo bashing here, because I love Leos. When the Leo energy gets a little bit distorted, we can sometimes feel a little insecure and absolutely seek significance and like really want to dominate things and really want to be kind of in the center of things. So if you feel like you're seeking recognition, but it's almost like a need, almost like you're clamoring for it, then that's an indication to you that there's something that's wanting to come up and be healed. Now, it also, if you find you're shrinking from visibility at the moment, that's also an indication there's something maybe holding you back, because what he's here to do actually is to help you feel that sort of authentic self-expression, and it be coming up from the heart, that it kind of wells up in you. You see it really easily in children, in particular children before they've started school. No offense to school or anything like that. That's not a bad comment about school, but I think you see it in children in their natural environment, before they have constraints put on them. In babies, and in animals, like when they're like, I guess creatures, living beings, when they're being themselves and when they're full of their being, that's when they are kind of generously rooted in their heart space and they're expressing, and that's what's coming up right now. Now, the thing that I love about Leo in the first house and also Jupiter in the first house, this is, I think, an a placement that actually leads by example. You know, like you feel so good in yourself that you start to radiate out, and then other people are also picking that up. So just by you being you and shining your light right now, you might be encouraging other people to give it a go as well. So it's quite an important one for you. I hope that's helpful for you, Leo. Now, given the importance of it, if you wanted to look a little bit more deeply and then connect this particular transit to the rest of your personal chart so that you can map the important times, like the go times, when to push ahead, or maybe when to hold back a little bit and think things through, then just give me a shout. It's really easy to book an appointment with me. Just click on my Calendly link below. Or if you'd like some support from my online community, I've got a free community on the School platform. All you need to do is go to www.school, that's SKOOL.com/feelgood astrology. So sending you loads of love. Have a great Jupiter in Leo transit, and catch up with you another time soon. Lots of love. Hey there, Virgo. This is for all the Virgo ascendants out there who want to understand what's going on with Jupiter in the sign of Leo, which just so happens to land in your 12th house. Now, Jupiter is known for being a planet of expansion and joy and hope and optimism and faith and spirituality. Like, he's quite religious. He's also absolutely wanting to be felt, be seen, be known, be visible. And so he is essentially a bit like a flashlight. And in the quiet of your 12th house, which is, you know, thought of as the unconscious mind, it's what we can't see behind us, it's our inner programming. Jupiter here is going to be shining a light on all of that. Now, if you've already recognized where you've got things that are very helpful to you in your unconscious mind, and maybe found some little belief systems that you hold about yourself that are not so helpful, Jupiter coming in with that preparation, I think, could be very, very useful, because, you know, he can see what needs working and he'll shine the flashlight on what you need. You know, you're expecting, it's very, very helpful. I often find that when Jupiter, that is an expansive planet, comes into something that you want to keep up locked and shut and closed down, that it can be quite uncomfortable. A bit like if you're not feeling comfortable in yourself, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and puts you on the spot and starts asking you questions. I mean, I think we can all remember times like that when we were a kid, and some nosy friend of your parents came and sat there and put all their attention on you and was like, tell me, how's school? How's this? How's that? How's puberty? Whatever it was, you know, the discomfort, like you feel like there's nowhere to go. And I think Jupiter coming into the 12th house can feel like that sometimes, because like there's no stone left unturned. And if you've got some hidden triggerings and inner programs that you're not quite conscious of, and of course this is a place of our unconscious mind, then it can be a little bit I don't want to say disturbing, because I don't want to ratchet up the fear or anxiety about it, but it can just feel a little bit uncomfortable, because, you know, the things that you might keep hidden about yourself suddenly come into view, like you get to see yourself fully. And that's actually one of the benefits, I think, of this particular period in time. And Jupiter's going to be here. He went in on the 30th of June, so just over 10 days ago, and he's going to be there until the 26th of July. So all in all, he's going to be there just under a year, moving out in 2027. And so he's there to help you see yourself fully, to help you see your unconscious mind, your inner thoughts, your inner programmings. He's also there to help you feel some joy in yourself, in your private self. So the 12th house is often a place where people come to recover, where people come to relax, refresh, to meditate, to journal, to get a sense of peace and quiet, which is quite nice actually these days, isn't it? And so Jupiter's coming in here and he's encouraging you to look at things. He's wanting to talk about things. So, you know, to me, this is almost like you've got a guide by the side who's there to support you. You might feel like you're not as like if you feel alone when you're on your own, you might not feel quite so alone because Jupiter's there. He's, you know, he'll be felt. Now, at the start of this transit, he's in an opposition to Pluto, and he's also tied in with all of these planets. This one is Neptune in Aries. This one is Uranus in Gemini. And Saturn is going to be working with Jupiter as he moves into Leo a little bit more after mid-August. He really starts to come into this part of Leo, which I think is going to be quite helpful. But, you know, initially until mid-August, it feels like Jupiter is kind of tightly wound into some big patterns. And those patterns are starting with Pluto in Aquarius in your 6th house. Now, Pluto here is, I think, creating an amount of social pressure or family pressure or pressure to get things right. The 6th house is a place where we're highly conscious of what's going on in our life. So it looks at how we organize our house, you know, how we've got our money sorted out, our health, our fitness, and all of that stuff. How we all fit it together. And so Pluto in Aquarius, I think, is putting pressure on us to get control, maintain control. Pluto loves control. And what's worse is he creates a fear of losing control. So at the moment, there's this very sort of strong impulse working in your chart right now that I have to know what's going on. Life moves so fast, I've got to get in control. Now, you've also got Neptune in your 8th house. The 8th house is also a house where we like to have a certain amount of control because it involves other people's thoughts and feelings and how they impact on us and how other people might use our money or use our shared money, or how we might one way of thinking about it, I always think the 7th house is where we come together with our partners, and this is where we go deeper in the 8th house with our partners. Like I love this phrase that my husband gave me, which was, first comes the luggage, then comes the baggage. So, you know, Neptune is in the baggage handling area of our charts. And so, you know, Neptune feels everything. So you might be extra sensitive to how you might be judged, or you might be extra sensitive to pressure of guilt. And of course, if Pluto's putting pressure on you to do things, you might be feeling highly, highly pressurized. Now, you got Uranus in the 10th as well, which is, I think, a bit of a pressure release valve, because Uranus in the 10th is not going to accept any pressure at all. He's saying, no, 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 I don't want any of this pressure. I want to do my own thing. I want to be independent. I want to find my own direction. I don't need anyone to manage me right now. And I often find that when people have Uranus going into the 10th, that they suddenly free themselves from a very ordinary job, or they change their job in some way. There's usually some big shift. And then as we're coming around to Jupiter in the 12th is kind of saying, okay, look, I see you've got that pressure, and I understand you feel the pressure from family and friends and money. However, it's important that we live our intuitive life, and I'm here to help you relax. So Jupiter really wants to bring in this relaxation and make it a big theme. He really wants to bring in meditation. He really, or something similar. He really wants to bring in things. I mean, you might like, this is what I like, and I don't think you'll hear it here because my mic, oh, you might hear it actually. This is my favorite one. This is 93.96 hertz, which is I think the 12th harmonic of the Schumann resonance. So you might have something, oh God, that feels so good. You might have something like this that just relaxes you while you're working, while you're doing YouTube videos. Or, you know, it might not be journaling, it might not be meditation, it might be yoga. There's something that's maybe contemplative, meditative, relaxing, refreshing. It's a great time as well to go into therapy. Not that I'm saying you need it, but any kind of coaching where you get to explore yourself gently in your own time, at your own speed, and where things can just unravel, where you practice in your mind's eye, you know, unraveling your life, unpacking your life to see how it fits together. You know, almost like if you were to go online, I'm pretty sure there are these computer programs where you can put things back in your house and move your furniture around and see how it looks. I think you can do that in your mind's eye, but you just need the space to do it. Jupiter right now is here to help you refresh yourself and see yourself from a new perspective. Now, I really do recommend that you use Jupiter here for this purpose, because from July of next year, he's going to be coming into your 1st house, And when that happens, the impulse is going to be to start moving ahead, to start getting very visible, to be seen, to build your confidence. And things are going to start moving very quickly for you and your identity. So where you are right now with Jupiter is he's allowing you or helping you to break it all down just a little bit more, so that when you're ready to move into the first house, you've already cleared a beautiful space for your being to evolve into. So I think they're the main ones that I'm really seeing. Now, the North Node moving into Aquarius, the South Node moving into Leo at the end of July is also going to be encouraging you to remember times when you've been peaceful, to remember times when you haven't been so stressed or tightly wound or so in need of control over how your everyday life is going. And so use those old memories to jog that physical feeling, that sensory feeling of peace and calm. Jupiter will work with the South Node beautifully here. And you might find that just by considering what you enjoy doing when you were a child, you might actually stumble upon something. We often, the things we do as children, we get taunted out of it or coached out of it or encouraged out of it, like, oh, adults don't do that. But what if they do? What's stopping you from starting dance classes now, or starting singing classes, or doing something that you think is going to bring you joy? So joy, I think, is important. The joy of unraveling is, I think, something that you can come to look forward to with Jupiter in the 12th. Now, if you would like to explore more about how Jupiter is affecting you in your actual charts, according to like where your sun is, your moon, and all the other important parts of your chart, then just book an appointment with me. We can look at Jupiter from the perspective of the kinds of success, influence and expansion you're hoping to move into. I'm really happy to help and work with you on this. Or if you'd like some support and extra forecasts every week, and also a community where you can chat in. We have hangouts every couple of weeks within my community. Then just join my free community on the School platform. You can get there by going to www.school, that's SKOOL.com/Feel Good Astrology. So have a beautiful Jupiter in the 12th house experience. Catch up with you real soon. Lots of love, Virgo. Bye for now. Hey there, Libra. How you doing? So this is for Libran ascendants. If you've got Libra rising sign or ascendant sign, this one should be really helpful for you, because this is about Jupiter going into the sign of Leo. He's already gone in. He went in on the 30th of June, and he's going to be there until the 26th of July, 2027. So he's going to be there for a whole year. And Jupiter, as you probably already know, is a planet of expansion. He's a planet that brings in optimism and hope and joy. He is absolutely about like a philosophical wisdom. He's full of religious tendencies and spirituality. He's on a bit of a moral quest in many ways. And Jupiter is highly visible. He's definitely got leadership ability. And so when we consider where he is right now, which is he's in the 11th house, which is a place of social interaction. It's a place where we might have hopes and shared visions with other people, where we connect with same interest networks. It's also a place where we can get funding. If you've got any good projects, now would be a great time for you to absolutely find the funding for something that you're absolutely really passionate about. So Jupiter here could really get the social wheels working, especially if you're a highly collaborative person. Jupiter's going to really start working that opportunity for you in a big way, which I think is marvelous. Now, in this short forecast, I want to talk about where Jupiter starts his transit from this position here at 0 Leo. When he comes into Leo, he's already in an opposition to Pluto in the 5th. He's already also in a sextile with Uranus and a trine with Neptune. Now, all four of these planets are making a very rare basket configuration together. And I think this is going to have really important ramifications. as the next few years go by, I think whatever is seeded now is likely to manifest and come into your reality. So I do think if you've got some big social projects and some big collaborative projects, that this could be a very exciting time for you with Jupiter going through your 11th house. Now, given that he's in an opposition to Pluto right now, and at the start of this forecast, I would say he's a little bit trapped in. Pluto likes to put in a bit of social pressure. And he also he just likes to pressure, full stop. Pluto is always looking for control. And currently Pluto in your 5th house is showing where you might want more control over the things that you're creating. And of course, when you're in the 11th house and you're in a collaborative experience, you don't really get to say how things run. It's more by agreement. Everyone comes into an agreement together. So you don't have as much control. So I would say until Jupiter just moves away from Pluto's opposition, you might feel a little bit stymied initially. And so that's the first 5 to 6 weeks of this forecast. Now, during that time, if I was in your shoes, I would be laying the groundwork for high level collaboration. So for instance, what I would do right now is think, okay, what is it I want to achieve over the course of the year? Especially collaborative things, especially things that involve friendships. If you've got stepchildren, it could also, they also fit in here. So if you've got some stepchildren goals, that can also take place this year. But over the next 5 weeks, I wouldn't be looking to achieve any of it. I'd be looking to set the scene, like kind of create the bare bones, create the bare structure of what it is you want to do. Now, given that Pluto down here is in a very deeply personal creative space, you might be thinking, okay, how do I retain my control over the projects I'm going to collaborate with? So over the next 5 weeks, you might think about your preferences. You might think about the overall style of something that you're creating, or you might think about what would be a boundary for you, how far you'll be pushed before you know that it's not the right project. So I think over the next few weeks, if I was in your shoes, I would be laying the groundwork for anything I wanted to do collaboratively, and also finding out where my no-go areas are, and also where I tend to work really, really well. I might also consider what my unique effort and energy and addition to anything is. Like, what is my gift? So that when you go into these collaborations, you can be really, really clear and say, look, this is what I'm offering, or this is how I work best. This is how I flow best. This is where you'll get the best out of me. So that if you're getting pushed into things that aren't you won't feel that compulsion, because what you probably don't want, as Jupiter is amplifying things, is to amplify a big situation that you've got into and you're not comfortable with. Also, in the next 5 weeks, you might start to think, okay, I want to do something new over this next year ahead. You might think carefully about what you want to get involved in. And what I mean is, there's not just one opportunity. You might think, okay, I've got this one possibility, but over the next 5 weeks, why not think, okay, how else might I achieve this? Like, if you've got the goal of, I want to have more friends, and I want to have more professional friends, and I want to have more friends who I'm creating a difference in the world with, maybe, that's just whatever just came into my mind. You might think about, like, as you open your mind to it, you might come up with one idea, but if you keep asking and keep being open, you might see several different models or ideas arise. So that time before you commit to anything is actually quite helpful. Also, over the next 5 weeks, we're going to have the South Node coming into the 11th house. And so again, I probably wouldn't commit to anything until the South Node has come in. And by mid-August, both the true node and the mean node are fully in the 11th house. And it really feels like a time when you naturally know how to shine in a group. You naturally know how to contribute in a group, and to feel joy in a group, and to expand in a group. And I think this could actually change your life in quite a lovely way. You see, the last time this was here was in July 2014. And if you can cast your mind back to what dreams you were collaborating on, or what social things were going on for you, it will be a little bit like that, only there's a lot more commitment, there's a lot more power and energy to move you forwards this time than there was 12 years ago. Now, something else to consider is Saturn is in your 7th house, working really hard with Jupiter for 8 out of the 12 months of this next year. And then when they're not in a trine together, they're still going to both be in fire signs together, and that still counts. So Saturn is also in a very social house. I think you're going to have some very serious, thoughtful, discerning, possibly powerful people to be playing with in this year ahead. So if in some of your if one of your aims in this year ahead is to collaborate and possibly move yourself forward in your career, or possibly do something that's going to lift you up, to me, it looks like this could be a year when you meet and collaborate and connect and commit with somebody who is like a really sort of like equal or above status. Not to talk about status, I don't like to define it too much, but I just think this could be an upwardly mobile time for you, with both of these bridging planets in fire signs across your 7th and 11th houses. I think this could really lift you up in a very, very helpful way. So I hope that's helpful for you to understand. When this is going beautifully, you'll know it, because you'll feel like you're in a space where you can shine your own light, where you're completely appreciated. And actually, by you being yourself, you see that others are inspired to be themselves and to give from themselves beautifully. So, I really feel that you can't really go wrong here. If you feel at some point that you're wanting to shrink from visibility, or that you feel like you're not being seen and you're almost clamoring to be seen, then that's just an indication that the Jupiter energy is just ever so slightly off, and I often find that things like that are relating to like a past hurt, or something that needs to come up to be seen. Now, that may well come up because you'll also have Chiron going through your 8th house. And Chiron in the 8th house can be quite a sensitive experience, because it can show you, maybe where you feel a little bit porous to other people's views and where you might take them a bit seriously. So to me, Jupiter in the 11th is also going to be teaching you to take other people's ideas about you as information, not take things so personally. I think this is actually going to help you be a lot more robust. So I hope that's helpful to you, Libra Ascendant. If you would like to explore all of these themes, but this time actually with your birth chart, you and me in a Zoom call, where we can map your success, map your expansion over this next year and a little bit beyond, then just get in touch. All of my details are below. I've got a Calendly link, and you're free to just book directly into my diary. If you would just like to be part of a community that feels like a safe space where we can chat a little bit about astrology, I have hangouts every couple of weeks, and lots of other things going on, lots of extra forecasts, then just get in touch and join me in the community. You can find it's a free community on the School platform. It's www.school, that's SKOOL.com/feelgoodastrology. So have a beautiful Jupiter in Leo transit Libra. Have a wonderful time, and catch up with you all soon. Bye for now. This is a forecast for all Scorpio ascendants. If you, like me, have got Scorpio rising, then right now Jupiter is going to be going through Leo and is going to be heading into your 10th house. Now, he went into the sign of Leo on the 30th of June 2026. He's going to be there until the 26th of July 2027. So it's a good long transit. It's a good amount of time for us to pick up a new style to do with our career. Now, what I'm going to cover in this short forecast is a little bit about Jupiter. I talk more about him at the beginning of this video, by the way, if you want to know more. A little bit about Jupiter in Leo. Also, how he's going into Leo. So when he goes into Leo, he's going to be in opposition to Pluto. What's that meaning? Like, Pluto, I think, puts quite a lot of pressure onto planets that he's in opposition with. So that's going to come into it. Jupiter is also part of a basket alignment, and that's also going on. Both the opposition with Pluto and this basket formation are easing off when we get into mid-August. And I see that as a time when Jupiter is kind of breaking free a little bit and has a little bit of support. You see, as we get into mid-August, Jupiter is going to be going into a trine with Saturn. Now, although Saturn can also be controlling in this trine energy of 120 degrees, Jupiter is helpfully supported. So there's going to be this expansion with support, which I think is going to be very beneficial. We've also got the North Node moving into Aquarius and the South Node moving into Leo, which is also where Jupiter is. What this means is really from mid-August, once the South Node is really settled in the sign of Leo, you'll find that the South Node and Jupiter over this next year are going to get closer and closer together. Now, this is bringing up, I think, helpful reminders of when you've been brilliant in your career, helpful reminders of when things have gone really well, when you've been seen, when you've been understood, when you felt confident, when you felt popular. And so to me, this particular Jupiter in Leo is much stronger than other ones. For instance, the last time this happened was in 2014. But this time round, there's a lot of things that are supporting Jupiter on his way. Uranus for one, Neptune for another, and definitely Saturn. They're all really helping cheer Jupiter on. And he's in a top spot, the 10th house. This is an angular house. This is a house where things start to change and turn your life around a little bit. So this is all for the good, I would say. Anyway, let's move into this a bit more. So Jupiter is a planet that is expansive, is hopeful, optimistic, who is a proper feel-good planet. In fact, he is in mythology, he is a natural leader. And so you can expect your leadership to strengthen and to continue to strengthen as you're going through this time. This is really encouraging you to claim your leadership and to be comfortable in leading the way. Jupiter also is quite philosophical. I would say he's quite easygoing. He's quite a nice character. He wants to involve other people. He doesn't want to control things with an iron fist. He really wants to inspire and speak to the hearts of other people. So he has got quite a lot of influence and passion and power that I think are really going to help you in your career, whatever it is that you do. And if you aren't working, or you've retired, or you live a life in such a way that a career is just not important at all, this is about you feeling like your own status in life is increasing, that your own legacy that you might be leaving in this world at some point, because we all do leave it at some point, that you're creating some form of lasting legacy. This is about your feelings of recognition, your feelings that you have gratitude, and that people have gratitude for you. This is really that you're at the top of your game. So this is a big aspect for you, a really, really big sort of transit that's happening. Now, if we talk a little bit about Pluto currently is in the 4th. And, this can show where there are controls at home, or where home is controlling you a little bit. Maybe something to do with your stability in your house and your roots. It might be a character at home, like a person in your real life, or it might be you trying to make sense of your home and trying to hold it all together and make it ends meet and make everything work. And that can sometimes really detract from the feeling of being lifted up and out of your home. You see, often when people's careers take off, we don't spend as much time at home, unless, like me, you work from home, or just sit in your office all day. But this could bring about that feeling of being separated from your home and pulled apart, and that could create some real tension. But that will ease off as Jupiter moves further into the 10th house. That should get easier. Now we've got Saturn currently in the 6th house. Now, Saturn in the 6th is encouraging you to get very, very organized actually in how you're earning your money, how you're managing your diary, how you're giving yourself enough time to achieve all the tasks that you want to, that you might be a bit more serious about your lifestyle, that you might be a bit more mature. You might realize that some of your idiosyncrasies, like the things that you poo-hoo, you might now realize 14 years on from the last Jupiter transit, you might be thinking now, wow, last time I was a bit of a kid, or last time I didn't really respect my body, or I didn't really respect my time. Last time I used to try and do 2 days worth of things in one day. Saturn in your 6th is actually teaching you to be discerning and to slow it down, break it down a little, to not take on more than you can. He's actually encouraging you to work at the right pace for you, so you're not going to get burnt out. And that's quite helpful, because actually as Jupiter goes into 10th, I mean, you're likely to just want to expand and work and influence, launch things. It's a really interactive time where you're going to feel so buoyant that you want to take on the world. And Jupiter here is just like holding you back a little bit. If Jupiter is the hot air balloon or like a helium balloon, Saturn is the string, making sure you don't launch off in the wrong direction or go off into space where no one can enjoy you. You know, Saturn is keeping you tethered so that you are still in the real world. And I think that's actually going to help you. It's actually going to be really strengthening. You know, Saturn is just going to keep reminding you, that's good, you're confident. Is it reasonable? Is it achievable? Is it measurable? And if you can tick everything, it's going to be fine. Jupiter is going to help you to be seen, to be appreciated, to be recognized. It's going to be, I think, very helpful. Mostly what I see for this time is you'll come into a space where it's going to be really natural for you to shine from your own light in your career and in your life and in the world. You know, any resistance that you've had about being seen and about being judged, Jupiter is going to really work on that, so you're really kind of freed up from it in a really beautiful way. And then as you shine your light, because Jupiter is so magnificent, I think it's going to spread. You know, other people are going to see you and be inspired by what you're doing and seeming to do in the real world. And then more people are going to want to work with you, get involved with you, follow you. It's I think really, really helpful. So this is a very, very special time. So again, just to go back to the beginning, I think in the next 5 weeks, take a bit of time to think about exactly where you want to land or fly up to as a hot air balloon. Think about it, put the seeds, like clear the ground a little bit over the next 5 weeks, just while Pluto and Jupiter are a little bit tense and while this basket is ongoing. By the way, this basket, what's coming up right now over the next 5 weeks or so are all the little thoughts and patterns and ideas are all coming sharply into view, so that they're kind of coming into a cohesive model for you now to really see your life in a really clear way. I think that's happening around the world. It doesn't seem like it at the moment. It just feels a little bit chaotic still. But I think, you know, in the chaos, all these ideas are just getting sorted in real time. And I think over the next 5 weeks, things are going to get much clearer very, very quickly. Lots of things will move very quickly. And the same will be for you in your career, or for you and your outer appearance to the world. So this is an important transit. So I hope that's helpful for you to know that, Scorpio rising. If you'd like to explore this with me and your actual birth chart, so we can look at your success, your prominence, the legacy you want to leave maybe. I know that sounds like such a big thing and you might not be ready to leave Earth anytime soon. But you know, this is a very, very powerful time. If you'd like to explore this with me, then just get in touch. My details are below. Just click on the Calendly link and you can just book directly into my diary. Or if you'd like to be part of my community, I've got a free online community on the School platform. That's SKOOL. Then just come and join us. We have hangouts. We have, I do regular forecasts. There's chat and people posting things. So just come and join us, and there's lots of support there. So anyway, Scorpio, have a good one. Take care and catch up with you all soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Sagittarius rising. This is a forecast for Jupiter going into Leo. He went into Leo on the 30th of June, so just a short while ago, and he's going to be there until the 26th of July 2027. So we've got the best part of a year of him transforming your chart in a different way. Now, in your chart, what I'm going to explore in this short reading is how he is going to expand and make changes and encourage confidence through your ninth house, which is where he currently is, if you've got Sagittarius rising. Now, to do this forecast, it seems right to include a lot of the conditions that Jupiter is in right now. And so he's up here at the far end of what's known as Barbault's basket. He is in opposition to Pluto in your third house. He's also working in a trine with Neptune in Aries, and also a sextile with Uranus and Gemini. And so this energy is really perpetuated until around about mid-August, when Jupiter kind of steps out of this opposition to Pluto and starts to really come into this lovely trine with Saturn. Now, for the next year ahead, we've got this lovely trine between Jupiter and Saturn for about 8 months. So this trine is going to be really, really helpful. You know, Jupiter's energy is to expand, bring in a sense of belief, religion, philosophy. You know, I think, you know, he, especially in the ninth house, Jupiter is naturally a ninth house planet. You know, he really understands the ninth house because it's a place where there's a bigger context where we can understand things at a much deeper level. And Jupiter really suits this well. He's also a planet that loves to share ideas, not in the way that Mercury might. You know, Mercury is a lot more factual and, you know, bounces around from subjects, whereas, you know, Jupiter wants to really get to the meat and bones, really sort of examine things. And so this energy is really, really coming into your ninth house. Now, your ninth house is all about, funnily enough, examining things at a deep level. It's also a place where we might want to write, where we might want to share, we might want to teach at a high level or study at a high level. It's also where we're on the great adventure. I really see this house as a place where we are looking actively for greater levels of independence, and a much more broad view of the world that we live in. And to me, it feels like your whole context within life is expanding right now. So if you are still living in the same town as you've always lived in, it's funny, it's as if your consciousness is growing outside of that town exponentially. Now, it's interesting, you know, that I've mentioned the town that you're currently in, or the city, or wherever it is that you live right now, because Pluto is in a place, and he's going to be here for another 17 years, I think. He is in your third house, which is very much about your local environment, your local community, the local narrative that most people around you would use. And so having the tension between Pluto in the third and Jupiter in the ninth, it's like they're both wanting to bring different things into your experience, your lived experience. Now, Jupiter's is just coming in here for a year, whereas, like I said, Pluto's going to be here for a long time. Now, Pluto's a bit of a control freak. You know, he really loves to show where he is in charge. When Pluto comes somewhere, he's usually showing us where there's a situation where there's like nothing that really is going to yield, where nothing's going to change. It doesn't matter how much power and control you put into something. It feels like you're working against other energies that would try to retain their power. You know, I always see that wherever Pluto is going in a chart, he is really showing us the power plays are going on and where we would be better off surrendering or finding our peace with it. So to me, this is indicating that at some level, and I say this from my personal experience as well, because the third house is actually where Pluto is for me right now as well. So my experience is Pluto is showing me just how far my influence can go within my local community. Like, am I there to bring about change and transformation, or am I being transformed by my community? Right now, I'm realizing when I'm pushing within my community and pushing and saying, this is what I believe and this is what's going on. And it's almost like the community is knocking back. My experience of the community that I live in is that there's a lovely, strong tradition. And actually, those strong traditions are setting the scene for my own discoveries. And so if I was to spend my time pushing into the community and pushing my views in the community, I would be getting probably a much rougher experience. Pluto shows where we might not be able to challenge, or if we challenge something, where we're likely to end up like stepping forwards, but then taking 2 steps back. It's a bit like playing chicken. If there's any planets you don't want to play chicken with, it's Pluto, because he will mow you down. He will absolutely go for the jugular. So I advocate not ever playing with Jupiter, but just kind of thinking, okay, what is this part of my chart showing me right now? You see, this part of your chart, I see here is really where there's a lot of really intense development going on for you. It's going from the beliefs that you've grown up with and the belief systems within your local community that are really firmly held, versus your own ever expansing stance on life and your own desire to incorporate more of the outside world into your inner world. And that could feel like, an insurmountable task. What I would say is it feels quite strong until around mid-August, when Jupiter starts to move out of Pluto's way. And then I think it starts to get easier, because by this time, Jupiter is moving into this lovely trine with Saturn, and Saturn's in your 5th house. And so Saturn is helping you develop your ideas and your creativity. He's giving you a lot of guidance. He's giving you a lot of structural support. He's giving you a realistic view of your creativity, so that you don't overdo things or underdo things. He's really showing you the realism of what it is that you could create. And then Jupiter in the 9th house is giving you that sense of hope and confidence to share your message, or to explore the world and to get a much bigger view of life. So this is meant to really expand and open your heart, especially if you're really, really curious. Now, with Uranus in your 7th house as well, this is also, I would say, showing that you're automatically bringing more interested, unusual, eccentric, wild, free spirited, independent people into your life. And so that also is informing Jupiter. So really, it feels like Saturn is absolutely pushing you to use your creativity to expand your life. The people you're attracting into your life are encouraging you to be more wild yourself, or to be your independent self. And Pluto, by the very nature of keeping things so kind of penned in your local community and so traditional, it's absolutely like a springboard for you to find yourself in a position of greater independence, greater curiosity, greater possibility, and greater excitement. So this is, I think, a real sort of upward feeling for Jupiter in the next year. Now, something else worth observing is the fact that the North Node is coming into the 3rd house, and we've also got the South Node coming into the 9th house. So the South Node, at the end of July and really through mid-August, is getting very established into the sign of Leo. Now, the South Node is always reminding us of what we've done well, where we've already learnt the lesson, where we have maybe had some grace. If you believe in past lives, it can show where past life things are becoming a bit more Leo, a bit more dramatic, a bit more colourful. There's a bit of a story behind things. And it's a lot more passionate. But over the course of Jupiter's time in the sign of Leo, he is going to make a conjunction with the South Node. And so what occurs to me is, whatever you're trying to achieve right now, it's really helpful to ask yourself, where have I been here before? Where have I, like, let's say you want to teach. Where have I been a natural teacher before in my life? What was I doing then? And why was it so successful at that time? Or if it's that you want to feel more independent, ask yourself, when was I at my most daring? When was I at my most independent? What qualities was my independence adding to my life? And it will give you loads and loads of clues as to how Jupiter could expand you. Really, I think it's offering you like the vision of what has helped in the past and what can help you now. Of course, once you have that in place, you can start using Jupiter and say, okay, Jupiter, I'm looking for opportunities that are going to help me feel wild in Europe, or whatever it is, whatever you are remembering. So I really think this is quite a time of remembering our old things to help Jupiter bring more magnificence into our life. So a final thing is Jupiter is really wanting to expand beyond social pressure. I really see that Pluto in Aquarius in the 3rd house is like the epitome of social pressure. It feels like there's a certain weight coming from your local environment, or your cultural environment, your generation, whatever environments you feel like you have some attachment to, or where you feel like there is a sense of belonging. The level of social pressure, like Pluto puts on pressure. And Aquarius is a very, very social sign, very socially aware. So this is a time when I think social pressure is going really it's growing in quite an uncomfortable way. And so you might also experience this. You might know that you're wanting to break free and experience more of your own natural sovereignty because of the social pressure that you're feeling is heaped on. I think this is going to be a really interesting time. I do think this is here to liberate you. Final thought then, and actually I could have started with this. Jupiter's your ruling planet. As somebody with Sagittarius rising, Jupiter is a really, really important planet for you, because, he's in a house that really suits him. He's in a fellow element to where he belongs. Like, he has a natural resonance with Sagittarius because he's the ruler of Sagittarius, and Leo's a fellow fire sign. So anything that you can do that encourages passion, life, vitality. Oh, I've got a friend. Anywhere where you've got that kind of juiciness coming back into your life, Jupiter is going to help you enhance it and bring in even more. So I think this is going to be a really great time for you. And yeah, final thoughts. The medicine of Jupiter in this part of your chart is that you enjoy your life so much so that you're kind of shining your own light, sharing your own light, and that you become an inspiration to other people. So there's a lot here. There really is a lot here, and there's a lot of emphasis to enjoy yourself to the full. So I hope that's helpful for you. If you would like to explore this in your own chart with me, then feel free to just book into my diary on calendly.com. You can see the link just below. If you would like support with like-minded souls, I've got a free community on the school platform. That's skool.com. There's I think 430 odd people in the community. I put in free forecasts 4 or 5 times a week. We have fortnightly hangouts for the free version. If you wanted to learn astrology with me and within a really tight-knit and amazing group, and you'd be very, very welcome to join us. I've also got a premium version as well. So if either of those, any of those sound good to you, then just get in touch. All of my love to you. Lots of love. Take care and catch you soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Capricorn rising. So looking at the Jupiter in Leo transit, we're just over a week and a half in, and you've still got another 11 and a half months to go. And Jupiter is currently opening things up in your 8th house. Now, to really talk about him, I want to talk about all of the conditions that were going on in the skies at the time when Jupiter went in to the sign of Leo. And you can see here he's in this basket formation, which has been called Barbault's basket or Barbault's basket. This is a really unusual alignment. I speak about this right at the start of the video, but Pluto in Aquarius is currently in your 2nd house. He has been for a year, coming up 2 years, but a little bit longer when you think he came in and went out and came in and went out and then finally came in again. So he is really making changes in terms of how you value yourself, what your self-esteem is like, and how you manage your finances. And then Jupiter is in this 8th house, which is a very deep house. It incorporates a lot of inner psychological workings, not just yours, but also your partners, family, and ancestors. They all fit into this. It also is a place of shared finances. So, this is all about your like values and self-esteem and your money management. And this is about the money management and self-esteem and the way people are viewing your self-esteem and yourself and judging you. It's quite a big house. So this is belonging to people that you're sharing your life with. How are you managing your resources together? So Jupiter coming in here could bring a lot of hope. Jupiter, wherever he goes, he shines the light on situations. And the 8th house can be a place that gets a little bit dark and a little bit secretive and a little bit difficult to break free of. It's a place where all of our judgments are really held firm often. It shows ongoing feelings around our birth families, trauma that has come in and transformation. And it also shows a lot about the sort of level of intimacy and trust that you have with your partners. And so Jupiter is really going to be shining the light anywhere where there's a crack in the structure between you and your family members, and also the way you manage resources and money and sharing together. Jupiter could come in and it might inflame things a little bit at first. However, Jupiter is a kind-hearted fellow. He's absolutely there to shine the light, but then also bring in a lot of optimism and hope. And he's also, I would say, Jupiter's quite a moral. He did have some indiscretions, sexual indiscretions in mythology, but ultimately he's he's quite a moral fellow. Jupiter is known as being somebody who really has a sort of a religious and philosophical energy. And so to me, this is, if you've had problems with people in your life, and it's been difficult to get through them, difficult to find the core part or find the key to unlocking it, Jupiter here is bringing a lot of optimism and hope, and most likely helping you to reach out to people that maybe have been a bit unreachable before. If anything, he's helping you discover something. Now, the 8th house is also known as transformation, because obviously if you are able to transform the kinds of feelings and difficulties that can arise in the 8th house, once you transform them, oh my God, is your life going to change? And so Jupiter coming in here, whilst it might feel a little bit sore sometimes because he's shining a light on the things you've kept hidden, it can actually really lead to a fast and rapid growth. And a fast and rapid growth towards freedom. The next place he will be in from late July 2027, he's going to be coming into your 9th house, which is about your freedom. So you might choose to think about this current 11.5-year cycle, 11.5-month cycle. You might choose to consider it as the crucial unlocking, the unpicking, the ungluing, you're ungumming everything that's stuck together, so that next year you're coming into a time of much faster alignment, where things will move with much greater flow and ease, and where you'll be able to, have an adventure. So this is adventuring into your inner psychology, but next year there's a lot of freedom coming in. Now, with this configuration with Pluto here in the 2nd house, I imagine there's a really strong impulse in you, and it's been going on for a while, that you can find independence financially, that you don't have to rely on anyone else, you can do it yourself, that it's much better when you do it yourself, and you've probably learnt quite a few hard lessons that have either given you a lot more self-esteem and self-value, or you may have found that your self-value has been up and down, up and down, up and down, because Pluto can bring in challenges wherever he goes, and he's a very slow acting planet. It's like, you get some vitamins are on a slow time release. Pluto's energies, they do feel strong, but they are slowly released over time. the independence, the need for control of your money just seems like a really big thing. But what I would ask is, like, the eighth house, it shows where we can go into deeper levels of trust with each other. In the second house, it's showing where we're going into deeper trust with ourselves. But of course, when Pluto comes in, it feels almost dangerous to trust other people, hence why it's imperative. It feels imperative. I must have my independence. If I don't have my independence, I'm going to perish. But that's really born out of the belief system that you can't trust the people closest to you. So really, Jupiter here is showing you, yes, carry on building your self-trust. That's a great quality. That's helpful. But if you're going to go into distortion with it, your relationships will fall apart. So Jupiter here is here to remind you can rely on the people around you, and you can strengthen the levels of trust between you all. So I think it's going to be quite helpful. Now, you do also have currently Neptune and Saturn working through the fourth house. Now, Neptune can absolutely open you up to a more spiritual connection with people around you, and Saturn is absolutely looking at making all of your processes and flows at home much more effective, and to have a lot more discernment about who comes into your home, what energy stay in your home, and what needs to be repaired and fixed. It's like having a grown up in your home, only you're the grown up, and it feels like there's a maturity going on. It's not always an easy transit, but it does. I should say I've just had Saturn going through my fourth house. He does help us to take full responsibility for what's going on at home. You've also got Uranus in your sixth house, which is showing as part of taking responsibility for everything. It also feels like a lot of things have got to be moved around and changed and adapted. It's almost like you're upgrading your whole operating system. So all of this is going on behind the scenes whilst Jupiter is in the eighth house, and they're all supporting it, really. Now, the biggest support that you've got is Saturn in the fourth house. Believe it or not, Saturn's not seen like that in many, like from most people's perspective. But when Saturn is in a trine to Jupiter, he's there to help. So to me, it feels like whatever you need to shift and open up in terms of your relationships and managing resources with other people, Saturn is giving you the stability, the wisdom, the patience, the peace of mind, the grit, and the discernment to keep steady at home. This isn't really a time, I think, to be frivolous or to expend lots of time doing lots of new things and making huge changes. I would say what Saturn favors here in the fourth house is to make small, incisive changes slowly over time. Now, the reason I talk about Saturn so much is because he's also your ruler. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So having him in the fourth house, wherever he goes, it's worth heeding what Saturn is saying to you. Saturn is saying, don't make huge changes. Just really manage everything that you've got really, really well. And then when you do need to make some big sweeping changes, like Uranus is suggesting, you're making the right big sweeping changes. So you're not changing everything. It might just be that you change one thing after reflecting about it quite a lot. Now, I wouldn't consider making huge changes until Jupiter is out of this opposition with Pluto, because it just feels a little confrontational, that your assets and other people's assets, or your views on the people around you and their views on you, it just feels like a little bit of a clash at the moment. It's not to say it's bad, but just it feels a little competitive. But beyond mid-August, Jupiter's going to be going into a really helpful place, and he's going to be working with your natal ruler, which is Saturn. And that's the time when I see these small changes coming in at home, and also these much bigger openings coming in the relationships with the people around you. It feels like you can work together and come to trust each other so much more. Another thing that's happening is we've got the North Node coming into the second house, and we've also got the South Node coming to the eighth house. Now, the South Node talks about ancestral things, can talk about past lives, but I think of it as a part of our charts that's showing us what we've already done right. And so it feels like there have been times when you've been a good mediator, or you've been able to work really, really well with others because you haven't taken information personally. You've been able to listen. You've been able to get to the core of things quite easily. And so the South Node coming into the 8th house, to me, is showing that there should be ease coming in with other people's money, with your shared assets, and with how you organize things. It feels like there's an opening. And so the South Node and Jupiter over the course of this next year, they are going to come into a conjunction in your 8th house. And to me, this is going to be very helpful. It feels like a final clearing, a final understanding. And the funny thing is, it's a final understanding, but it's really based on something that you've created much, much earlier for yourself. For instance, if you can remember what was going on 18 and a half to 19 years ago, that would have been the last time the South Node was here. That might also give you a bit of a clue. Now, with the North Node going into the 2nd house, the North Node over time is also going to meet with Pluto. Not quite as quickly as Jupiter and the South Node are going to come together, but they are going to work together. And I guess my comment is there's plenty of time to get your money right. Actually, you'll be much stronger if you're working in collaboration with other people's money, like your partners, your family, in collaboration with shared resources. That's actually a much safer security measure right now than having all of the pressure, all the weight of the world and the responsibilities on your shoulders. You can increase your own levels of personal responsibility, but it takes a lot longer. So my advice is stick with the uncovering of vulnerability and truth in your relationships right now, because Jupiter is here to help you free yourself from the actual pressure that you're putting on yourself. A final thought, Pluto does put quite a lot of social pressure on us as well, especially because it's currently in the sign of Aquarius. So you might feel like there's social pressure, like there's a pressure that everyone needs to be able to be the boss of their own life, or everyone should be able to afford their own car, or everyone should be able to do this. There are lots of different ideas, and sometimes there are these ideas that we hear and it sounds really reasonable, and then we take it on as our own thought and our own belief system, and that's what's running our show. So be very wary, especially over the next month and a half, where all of a sudden you get this idea which sounds very reasonable, and then you think, oh, I'm this age, I'm in this culture, therefore I should be doing this, 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 and this, and if I'm not, I must be failing somehow. Really watch where you might be pressuring yourself, because Jupiter and the South Node are coming in to release some of that pressure for you and to increase the level of trust between you and the people you love the most. So I hope that's helpful for you, Capricorn. If you would like me to open up the Jupiter codes in your own chart and to look at levels of success and expansion and times when you might naturally rise up, times when you might naturally come into this final, financial security on your own, then just get in touch and book into my Calendly diary, invite me to work with you. All of my details are below. If you would like to learn and share within a really lovely, supportive astrological community, then consider joining my free community on the school platform. It's skool.com, school.com/feelgood astrology. There's 440, I think, people in there. And we've also got a premium version where we're also learning together as well. So there's lots of things going on there. There's a lot of support here for you during this interesting and potentially very liberating time. So have a great one, Capricorn, and catch up with you real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Aquarius, how are you doing? This is a short forecast to talk to you about the energy of Jupiter that recently went into the sign of Leo about 10, maybe almost 2 weeks ago. He is going to be in the sign of Leo now until the 26th, 27th of July, 2027. So you've still got about 11 and a half months of him in that sign. What I want to share with you today is how he's going to bring about his energies in your 7th house, which is whether be if you've got Aquarius rising. Now, because there's some very, very strong astrology as well, I also want to talk about the energy that Jupiter went into Leo with, because that's obviously really important. So Jupiter here is represented in purple. You can see that early on he is in an opposition to all of the planets within the Barbault's basket. That would be Pluto in Aquarius. We've got Neptune in Aries. We've also got Saturn in Aries. We've also got Chiron in Taurus, and more importantly, Uranus in Gemini. If you want to learn more about that, then go to the beginning of this video. This basket formation is really important because whilst Jupiter is very empowered by Neptune and a trine and also a sextile with Uranus, he is in an opposition to Pluto in your first house. And Pluto's been there a lot longer, so he's really taken up some space there. In fact, Pluto and Jupiter are really in opposition until we're getting into mid to late August. And so I really think at the start of Jupiter's time in Leo, it's worth taking your time to consider how you might want to use him rather than diving into this new energy. Take a few moments to consider things, because with the opposition to Pluto, you might find that there's backlash, that there's this feeling that things are a little bit sticky, that things get a little bit confrontational and oppositional. Once Jupiter starts moving out of Pluto's reach, then Jupiter's going to be a lot freer. Now, he is going to come up against another tricky planet, which is Saturn. However, they're going to be in a beautiful trine. And also Saturn is one of your rulers. The sign of Aquarius is traditionally ruled by Saturn, and also the modern day ruler would be Uranus. But both Saturn and Uranus are going to be working with the Jupiter energies. And I think they're really there to promote Jupiter in the 7th house and also support him. So what is Jupiter about? So Jupiter is a planet that brings us into a place of the inner guru. He is religious and spiritual, and he definitely likes to expand. He wants to dive into subjects. He doesn't want to skim them. He doesn't want to just get the headline facts. He wants the meat and bones of it. So he does like to go deep. And he also likes to go quite broad, and he likes to expand. And Jupiter in the sign of Leo is really, I think, infused with that Leo energy. Leo energy is very playful. So Jupiter gets a little bit of a joker here. He feels very well in himself. I would say Jupiter represents our well-being in many, many respects. So him coming into the 7th house, which is about our partners, the people we choose to commit to, and that could be our business partners as well as our actual romantic partners. It can also be our enemies, like people who we've committed to as an enemy, like somebody that you think, bloody hate that person, that kind of energy. I said that a little too easily. That's not to imply that I do hate people. I don't really, but there are some people I don't like very much. So the 7th house does show us, where we have a committed view about somebody. And all of these people really sit in the 7th house. They're all reflecting us back. I always see the 7th house, yes, it's about partners, but they're always reflecting back to us a part we can't quite identify with ourselves. So whereas the first is really showing us our identity, the 7th is showing our reflected identity back to us. So Jupiter is going to show us all sorts of wild, independent, contextual information about ourselves through the people around us. Now, when a planet goes through the 7th house, it also describes the shifts the people in our lives are going through. So it's actually quite nice to have Jupiter going through the 7th house. It can show where your partners are becoming very open-minded, very interested, very enthusiastic, very confident, where they're naturally feeling the joy of things. I mean, there's nothing really bad about that. That's beautiful. It can also show where they're very encouraging for you. They're very supportive, and they're really wanting you to kind of promote yourself. So in many ways, your partners right now, your beloved partners, and also your business partners, they're showing you that you've got a lot of this in you. They're showing you where you can have more confidence, or where you might choose to have a bit more confidence and a bit more playfulness, to be a bit less serious. The sign of Aquarius can suffer from seriousness as a condition. The Saturn side can sometimes consume. There's this need to get things right and to be of service. Aquarians are very service to others. Aquarians are very sort of communitarian. And you've also got Pluto in your first house, which also brings in this very serious side where you're wanting to do something with purpose, you're wanting to make a difference, and it's affecting your whole identity. So there's a huge change in your identity that's been coming on for a couple of years, really showing where you're going through a massive transformation. Not everyone in their lifetime is going to get to have Pluto going into their first house. This is a very, very intense experience. So yeah, we've got Pluto in your first. We've also got Uranus in a trine. That's the other ruler of Aquarius, working with Pluto. Uranus in your fifth is about your self-expression and your ability to be very creative, and to sort of develop those sides of yourself that might be a bit unconventional or a little bit strange, or maybe viewed a bit differently. And so what I really see here is this energy whereby you're taking all sides of yourself seriously, and recognizing it's okay to be yourself, even if it's not the same as everyone else. It's really encouraging you to be different and to enjoy your difference and to find power and transformation in your difference. And Jupiter in the seventh house is also showing you that you can lighten up, and that you don't have to take yourself so seriously, and that you might actually enjoy the whole process of evolving, that you might find it funny, that you might that you might be able to find some light during a very, very strong and powerful time. Now Saturn is also going to be quite helpful in this year ahead. In fact, Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in a trine for 8 months out of this next 12-month period. And Saturn is residing in your third house of community and belonging. It's interesting because Pluto in the first is suggesting that you can make big personal changes, but Saturn in the third is suggesting that you might get involved at a community level, and the things that you do at a community level could actually change your identity much faster and with much less resistance than if you're working at it yourself. It's almost like you become known for the things that you're actually doing rather than you become known for the things that you're being. So I think Saturn here is really helping you. And through your sense of duty and earnestness and wanting to do the right thing in your local community and taking action in your local community, and maybe reflecting some of your values in your community, Saturn is going to help you meet some great people that, you might find yourself lifted up by, people you might want in your life that you might choose to commit to. You might even find a life partner. In fact, I mean, that's the obvious interpretation that most astrologers would say for Jupiter going into the seventh house or Venus going into the seventh house. These are the benefics, and so it would appear that there's going to be someone great coming in. And if you're single, this is a great time to meet somebody. But I just think it does go deeper than that. This is more about meeting the right people for you. Now, the last time this happened was in July 2014 until around the same in 2015. So if you can remember the kinds of people you attracted into your life back then, that will give you an idea of some of the energies coming in. However, this astrology currently is so much more practical and so much more supported by the outer planets. I just think the people coming in right now in this next like from now until July of next year, these are people that you may well want to choose to be in your life for a really long time. People that are going to help you find your own joy, connect into your own joy. Like they're going to be there with you through all of your successes, and through all of your growth. And I think you're going to go through a lot more transformation because of them than just relying on your own intense evolutionary process. If I had one piece of advice for you for this transit, it would be to give yourself a break from trying to change and develop yourself right now. Not because you shouldn't, but because there are easier ways of doing it. Right now, what's going on in your community and within your relationships is creating so much more change and evolution for you than you can manage on your own. So yeah, I just think an openness to the amazing people coming into your life is just the next step. And every time you're interacting, more learning and evolution and joy are occurring. So I hope that's helpful for you. I see that that's a way to remember your magnificence. And, you know, in terms of remembering your magnificence, I just want to touch on the North Node. See, the North Node is coming into the first house, and it will make a conjunction with Pluto at some point over the next 18 months. However, Jupiter is going to meet up with the South Node that's coming into Leo much quicker. And the South Node is asking us, like, when, like, the South Node reminds us of when things were good. And so the South Node connecting with Jupiter is reminding you of a time when you felt expanded, popular, connected to people, that people were a joy to have in your life, when you felt like you're in the thick of things, where you felt supported, where you felt really kind of lifted up just because you had great people. And so the Jupiter and South Node conjunction is coming in much quicker than the North Node and Pluto. I would go with the Jupiter energy first, because the Pluto energy will come in a little bit later. So I hope that's helpful for you. If you'd like me to explore this in your birth chart with you in a consultation, we could look at how Jupiter can help you rise up or expand or assist you with your relationships. However you want to look at it, there's the opportunity to deep dive into this subject. If you'd like more support within a really great community, I've got a free community on the platform named School, that's SKOOL. If you go to www.school.com, that's SKOOL.com/feelgood astrology, feel free to come and join us. There's lots of free forecasts every week. There are hangouts every couple of weeks for everybody. And if you want to learn as well, then join my premium version. And we've got a really gorgeous core group of people, and we're all studying together, we're all learning together, all sharing together. It's a marvelous experience. So that's also there as something that could really support you. So sending you loads of love, Aquarius. However you're finding the first few days of Jupiter in the sign of Leo, I wish you a really good transit. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Pisces rising. How are you doing? So this is a forecast about Jupiter in the sign of Leo. He already moved in on the 30th of June, 2026. He's going to be there, however, until the 26th of July, 2027. So you still got 11 and a half months of his energy. And right now he's in your 6th house area of your birth chart. So what I want to do over the next 10-15 minutes is to show you some of the opportunities that Jupiter in the 6th house might be bringing to you, and also to share some of my thoughts about the condition you find him in right now. Because as he went into the sign of Leo, he was moving ever tighter into an opposition with Pluto. He's in a trine with Neptune that is applying. It's getting stronger every day at the moment. He's also in a sextile to Uranus, which is getting stronger at the moment. And very, very soon, he's going to be moving into a gorgeous trine with Saturn. Now, this trine is going to be going on for 8 months out of the next 12. And so I see this as being a very important time for Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is your ruling planet, or one of them, and the other one would be Neptune. So the fact right now that Jupiter and your natal ruler of Neptune are in a trine, I think is actually very, very helpful for you. It's I would say, quite an expansive and lucky time. So Jupiter is a planet that is about expansion. He's also about feeling good. He's an absolute feel good planet. He's known as being a planet that helps us tune into all that's exciting, all that's adventurous. He helps us to feel evolved and spiritual and religious. He also helps us to see opportunities and to enjoy attaining them. There's a bit of a thrill of the chase with Jupiter. He expects a lot. He's got very high levels of expectation. And I would say Jupiter's quite a confident fellow. So wherever he's going, he's trying to get you to expand that part of life so that you feel like a natural winner and that you feel elevated. He is known as a benefic. He's one of two benefics. He's one of them and Venus is the other. So the sixth house then is the part of our chart that I think of it as an office manager. It's like the brain, you could say. The sixth house is where we understand the flow of our natural life. For instance, you know, our habits, the things we're doing habitually, like getting up and going to work, or getting up, having a shower, ironing your clothes, or whatever it is, whatever order you're doing things in. That's really understood in the sixth house. In many ways, the sixth house is telling us about ourselves. It's telling us about the story of us because of our habits, and how we're spending all of our time when we're out of work. How are we managing our money? How are we managing our health and our diet? So how are we managing our family? You know, is our life smooth? Would be a good question. Does it work right now? Does it have a good pace? Am I working myself too hard or not at all? If I work too hard, am I going to burn out and make myself ill? All of these are really important questions, because when you overdo things, things get out of balance. And the sixth house is one of those houses where you don't want to get overbalanced. Now, Jupiter, I guess I'm going to use my own personal experience here, because he went through my sixth house not that long ago. When he went into my sixth house, my life got really busy very, very quickly. And so Jupiter, because he doesn't seem to be very boundaried, he has this habit of taking on things, especially if they feel good. So he'll say, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. I'll have a bit of that. It's like going shopping with children. So you're trying to get your weekly shopping done, and you've got children sat in the shopping trolley, like grabbing things from the shelves as you're passing the trolley through the aisles. You know, if you've been shopping with small children, you'll know that when you get to the checkout, there's always loads of extra things in there, usually sweets, that just you didn't notice them go in. And Jupiter's like that. He's taking on all these extra things for you to do, all these extra hobbies. That's not to say you need to watch yourself or not participate, because Jupiter could be bringing you something really fun, something that's going to bring you an amazing amount of well-being, and something that becomes almost like a spiritual behavior, you know, something that is going to really change your life so much that it becomes the core part of your life. So it's important. But what I would suggest is a certain amount of evaluation. Like, when these new opportunities are coming in, are you going to be like a yes man that just says yes, 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 yes? My advice is to actually not be a yes man, because Jupiter filling out your life could actually cause quite some problem. The great news is you're going to have Saturn in the second house, and Saturn is bringing a lot of discernment into your second house. And he's also bringing up some deeper questions about your self-esteem, and also like your purpose, like why are you here? Interestingly, the second house is very much about your self-esteem and your work and how you earn money. So it really can show, you know, like your money, and then the sixth house can really show your work. These two houses really go hand in hand. So you could end up really building a strong working practice that supports your home and family, or you could, over this next year ahead, build something that allows your work to be super efficient without ruining your personal life. It's about getting that balance right. So Saturn in the second house is showing that you're taking money really seriously now. It can also show that you might have lost some confidence in money, and hence why you're now taking it seriously. But he's going to be making you aware of how to earn more effectively. He's going to also help you connect your self-esteem and earnings together. So you really see that when you're feeling bad about yourself, mostly your earnings kind of stay the same, or for everything you bring in, and you think, oh, I've got some savings, and then like a washing machine breaks or something like that. That's the kind of cycle. A pun, you know, like washing machine cycle. You know, that's the kind of thing that happens, you know, when we're not realizing that the level of our self-esteem and our expectations really determine how well and easily our money can increase. And so the question here is, how can I feel better about myself? What's what resistance do I have that is telling me I'm not that good? You know, what's putting into my self-esteem in a negative way? What's making it harder for me to like myself? Because the more you can explore this, the easier it is, I think, for you to find the Jupiter opportunities to come into your life. You might find that with Saturn here and Jupiter here, that you're doing some learning about becoming more efficient in your money management and how you're managing your work. But you might also find that there's an interest in some kind of maybe life hacking, things like that, you know, where people have done a lot of the hard work for you, but they're teaching you a system that requires a certain amount of discernment and discipline. Now, when we add in Pluto, and Pluto's in your 12th, and so his energy won't be that visible, but it will most likely be felt. You know, Pluto can bring in fears and he can bring in a need for control. And in the 12th house, which really is about our unconscious mind, that can sometimes create a little bit of anxiety, and it can sometimes work with our shadow self or our self-sabotage, you know, where you end up having these automatic behaviors based on survival. And Pluto absolutely talks about survival, but Pluto's going to help you see where you've got things running. Saturn's also going to help you see where you've got some self-esteem issues that are running. So with Pluto and Saturn, they're going to be really showing you what you want to consider working on over, you know, well, with Saturn over the next couple of years, with Pluto pretty much for the next 17 years. They're really giving you, I would suggest, like a workout, you know, where you go to boot camp. It's almost like they're giving you a boot camp to a renewed self-worth. To me, this is showing you're applying a lot of energy to your self-betterment. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised with Pluto here and Saturn here, and also Neptune here, FYI. It wouldn't surprise me if retreats and learning with teachers that can help you work your mind, repattern your mind, assess your belief systems, look at your values, and get things into a new alignment. And so behind the scenes, these are actually helpful because they're going to really inform how Jupiter in Leo progresses for you. He's there to lighten it up at the end of the day. He's there to say, okay, I hear you, Saturn. I hear you, Pluto. You're being a bit too heavy now, because actually I need some light relief. And so that would be my biggest recommendation over this next year, is no matter what you're doing in your life right now to make really big changes for yourself, it's important that you book in some light relief, and maybe light relief that works back with Pluto, that works back with Saturn, and maybe that can also create some stability at home. You've got Uranus in the 4th house, really indicating that, you know, you're not just shifting your identity and coming into self-worth, but it's as if your home life is also shifting with it. So this is a huge time for you. This is possibly one of the biggest times of your life, in fact, because there's so much energy at play, really working on this sense of self-attainment. That's how it appears to me. But what I see here with Jupiter in Leo is he's kind of breaking free of being in this part of your chart, always wondering about improvement. And he's going to be moving. And one of the wise things you might choose to do in this year ahead is to have some joy at stripping back your life a little bit, almost become an expert at thinning the things that you don't need anymore. You know, Jupiter, if he could come in here and look at your routine and look at the way you manage your fridge or look at your wardrobe, and he could say, oh my God, you've got so much, even though he's a planet of abundance and, you know, joyful action. I really think, you know, if you can have that sort of optimistic mindset of creating space so something much more relevant comes into you, I think Jupiter could be quite helpful here. Before I wrap this up, I also want to mention that from July of next year, Jupiter is going to be going into your 7th house. Now, when he moves into the 7th house, this is going to be opening up energies for a much deeper partnership or a new partnership if you're single. And so this to me also is signaling that you're doing the necessary clearing work this year, which might not sound very glamorous, but it's opening space. So not only do you have a fabulous life that feels a little bit more organized because of Saturn and Pluto really working on your self-esteem, but it's creating some space. One of the dangers here, which I mentioned right at the start, is that you take on too much. And then when Jupiter comes into your 7th, you don't have any space for a new person that comes in. So I hope that's helpful. I do think this is about you coming into remembering your magnificence. So my final comment, I think, we've got the North Node coming into Aquarius, into your 12th house. And we've also got the South Node coming into your 6th house. Over the course of this year, the South Node, which reminds you of what you've already done well and already learned, the South Node is going to be connecting with Jupiter. Now, when they do this in your 6th house, it's reminding you of all the great things you've had in your life, all those things that have worked beautifully for you, all those things that have had a natural flow. If you can ask yourself that question, what have I always done really well? Like, when did I really enjoy my life? When did I have the balance right? When did I wake up and feel, yes, I'm alive? When did I wake up and just feel curious? All of those answers will be helping you to redesign a life that is building your confidence and building that sense of self-esteem. So that's coming up at some point in this next year. So I hope this is helpful, sending you lots and lots of love, and hopefully catch up with you another time. If you would like to work with me, then just feel free to book into my Calendly account, where you can just book a space in my diary. If you would like to learn within a really supportive community and it's growing all the time, then please consider joining my school community. If you go to www.school.com, that's SKOOL.com/Feel Good Astrology. Yes, it'd be lovely to welcome you aboard. So anyway, have a beautiful Jupiter going into Leo time of it, and catch up with you all soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.